Alright, we're just going to go through the tests and stuff, because last time we tried to stream, things got real laggy. We're doing it on Twitch. I'm using a new program, OBS, instead of, my capture card. So, we'll let this stream go for like a minute or two. Just making sure you guys can hear me, make sure my audio levels are good, make sure we're not friggin' lagging out like a mother bitch. That's mainly the biggest issue, is make sure we're not lagging. I think I have all the settings where we need to be. But yes, what you guys are going to be seeing here is my top 100. Pretty much everyone looks at the NFL top 100 on Twitter and stuff like that and just shits on the list. We did this last year, and everyone thought that, it was pretty good. They liked it more. Obviously, the NFL top 100, the official top 100, it does seem like a lot is reputation based. Like Ryan Shazier was top 30 or top 40 or something like that. Like, I think Ryan Shazier is one hell of a player, but I mean, come on, that's a sympathy vote if I've ever seen one. So, yeah, our list is going to be going down now. I will start with honorable mentions. God, that sounds going to be annoying, but if you subscribe, you get to pop up, I think, on the TV or something like that. Should work. I don't know if you guys see it or not. Just want to disable that. What else we got here? Oh, look, it is. It's working. Look at that. Subscribe. You subscribe and it pops up. It just lags a little bit. Dope. So yeah, we do some honorable mentions. Not only are we going to do honorable mentions, I actually took the time to watch my live stream last year so that I could, when you watch the NFL Top 100, it has their ranking from the previous year. So I have previous year's ranking from my own list for certain players. So you can see how far they've dropped, how far they've gone and raised up. And I guess this should be the final thing, because we're going to jump into it. How we're going to do it is we have this franchise in the back. I'm going to do 10 players, and we'll play a little bit of Madden. Then we'll do another 10, so on and so forth. We might pick it up if it's going on a little bit longer. So, what we're going to do is do some honorable mentions. And then after the honorable mentions, I'm going to break down what... Actually, no, screw it. We'll do it this way. I'm going to break down what goes into my list. Because right now, the toughest thing when you talk about the NFL Top 100 is the criteria. What are you voting on for players? You know what I'm saying? Like how are these guys getting it? Like, getting up based on stats? Is it reputation based? How I broke it down is out of 100 points. You have out of 100 points. 60 of the 100 is what you did last year. You know what I'm saying? So guys that missed massive games injuries, if you're still really talented, you'll find your way on this list. If you're not going to make it. So that's 60%. 10% is position. Let's be honest. We show respect to the offensive linemen as much as we can, but quarterbacks and skill position players are going to get ranked higher. So that's just the nature of doing a list like this. So that's 70%. And then the remaining 30 is just a je ne sais quoi, the best of the rest. A combination of, unfortunately, some players don't make the playoffs, but if you played well during the playoffs, you're going to get a little bit of a bump, because playoff performances is a big factor. Obviously, everyone's going to say, oh, look, Eagles are going to be ranked super high. I think my list is pretty fair with the Philadelphia Eagles. I think I only have one extra Eagle that didn't make the top 100 so far. The other 30% is going to be reputation as well. Some of these players did get higher rankings than some because they have long tenured reputation. They're not one-hit wonders, you know what I'm saying? So... but mostly for those of you that, there's people coming in late shitting on my list, it's mainly what you did last year with a little bit of everything else, reputation, playoffs, combined. So, without further ado, jumping in at number 100. Boom! It's going to be Greg Zuerlein. Greg Zuerlein, the kicker from the Rams. Last year, we always do a kicker. Pretty much every year, the number 100 spot goes to a kicker. Greg Zuerlein was an all-pro, 95% field goal percentage, 6 of 7 over 50 yards. This guy was pretty much automatic until he got hurt, and he was undoubtedly the most powerful kicker in the league. You have Graham Gano on the Panthers, was pretty good. Jake Elliott on my Eagles. Butker, 2 rookie kickers, also had some success. But the top kicker always... it's always the top kicker or the top punter. There's no undisputed top punter this year. We show love to special teams, and we're going to be putting in Greg Zuerlein. So, I always do like to get people's feathers ruffled a little bit. So now that you know that I have a kicker at number 100, you are going to see the honorable mentions. So now you're going to see the guys that got beat out by a kicker just because they weren't as good. And I mean, we ultimately got to pay respect to Greg Zuerlein. He was a beast fantasy football. He was a beast all around. So honorable mentions, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The next 6 out. These are in no particular order. These are guys that basically when I wrote my own list, they were on my short list, but they get, you get trim the fat to get to 100. So we have Demario Davis, the linebacker from the New York Jets, was very productive last year, put up really good stat lines, and kind of cashed out, if you will. He cashed out, went to the New Orleans Saints, should be a good get for them. We have Shawn Lee of the Dallas Cowboys. Now, this was reputation-based, and, Skip Bayless was paying me under the table. He might have made it, but ultimately, it's another year where Shawn Lee, when he wasn't on the field, kind of, the Cowboys imploded a little bit. And, that could be something that says to his reputation how good of a player he is. The fact that he just, he just missed out. Ultimately, Shawn Lee just missed out. And he's one of those players, I don't have anything to hate against him as an Eagle fan. It's not like Shawn Lee's a trash talker or anything like that. But he was just shy of making the top 100. I don't even think he made the top 100 for the NFL right now, which kind of sucks. So I guess we're on the same page there. We also have Reshad Jones from the Miami Dolphins. Again, really productive safety. I still think he is really, really underrated. But unfortunately, the Dolphins defense just, there was a whole lot of meh last year. And he didn't make enough game-making plays. I remember 2 years ago, though, Reshad Jones was simply phenomenal. Had an injury, I don't know if he's still fully back up to 100%. But if you're a Dolphins fan, you definitely need to be looking forward to next year. That tandem with him and Minkah Fitzpatrick. We also have Delanie Walker. Delanie Walker did not crack this list because he wasn't, his line wasn't that impressive. He isn't important to the Tennessee Titans, but really, in reality, no one on that Tennessee Titans offense, outside of the offensive line, was really anything spectacular last year. And the offensive line wasn't as good as years past. But Delanie Walker, still was the leading receiver. Anytime you're a leading receiver with a tight end, you get respect. And in reality, Delanie Walker was probably 102 or 101 or something like that. First guy out maybe on this list. But there's only, 3 tight ends. It's one of those things, Delanie Walker, should he be considered with the top 100? Absolutely. But when you see that there's very little tight ends on my list, it kind of makes sense. We have Brandon Cooks, now a member of the LA Rams. He's also on the honorable mentions list. Went over 1,000 yards, but he was the first wide receiver out. And then last but not least, we have Trent Williams, the offensive lineman from the Washington Redskins. For more often than not, he is one of the premier offensive linemen in the game. But when you look at Pro Football Focus, and for what Pro Football Focus does kind of fall short on, it does help you grade corners and offensive linemen. I find that's where the real value comes. And Trent Williams is like in the 20s if you're ranking all the offensive linemen, and then kind of putting our own little top 100 grade on that, where your reputation and their body of work kind of compiles it. He's still, you might move him up 5 spots, 10 spots in that list, and then he's just barely missing out on the top 100. So Trent Williams hopefully can have another bounce back year. But all in all, man, full respect to Trent Williams. It definitely started out with the people that don't like the Eagles saying we already have a Cowboy and a Washington Redskin not making the top 100. Deal with it. Deal with it. I kind of wish I didn't have this gigantic thing up because I can't see the chat, so I don't know if people are freaking out or not. But anyways, so yeah, we're doing the top 10. And then we're going to play a little Madden. And then we're going to do another 10. Play a little Madden. Only thing I don't have is people that are going to be tuning in late saying, oh, where's the recap and stuff like that. So if anyone wants to, kind of type in their notes, the list up to date, something like that, that'd be absolutely awesome. So anyways, we have Greg Zuerlein here at number 100. Who's going to be number 99? Well, I hope this works. There we go. Coming in at number 99, I have Alex Smith of the Kansas City Chiefs, now of the Washington Redskins. Last year, did not crack the list because, he's Mr. Checkdown, but last year got a little dangerous, a little promiscuous, and tried to throw the ball actually down the field. He's kind of like LSU quarterbacks, kind of allergic to the forward pass, but last year showed a little bit of spark. 9-6 as a starter, 4,042 passing yards, 26 touchdowns to 5 interceptions. Also added 355 yards on the ground and a rushing touchdown. He made the Pro Bowl during the playoffs, 264 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks. But ultimately, you could just see in the playoffs when it came down to the clutch, Alex Smith could not prevail his team. Now, the reason why the Chiefs lost, you can't throw that on Alex Smith. But ultimately, when you're a quarterback that makes the top 100 most important players in the league, you got to be able to elevate your team and win the big one. You need to be able to put that team on your back and make the big play. And we did not see that in the clutch from Alex Smith. We also saw the Kansas City Chiefs kind of fizzle out in the second half of the season. And what they did when they fizzled out is they stopped using Kareem Hunt. And then when you stop using Kareem Hunt, you're kind of throwing it more on the shoulders of Alex Smith. And when it was his time to shine, when the offense was predominantly going through him and not Kareem Hunt, they didn't look that great. So the more they relied on Alex Smith, the more he kind of got exposed to just being, you know, not the quarterback that destroyed the New England Patriots and beat the Philadelphia Eagles, because they had balance. They had a running attack in those games. But when they abandoned it, you know, there's not too many quarterbacks that can just completely abandon the run game and dominate. And you look at, you know, Carson Wentz a little bit, some games, but more so, you look at the big dogs like Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson. So I still think you show respect to Alex Smith, who kind of still gets that, you know, he's a game manager reputation. And I put him on the list, man. He did surprise a lot of people last year and could do good things with the Redskins, except I didn't really hold my breath. Going to number 98, we're going to be talking about Keyon ONeal, the safety from the Atlanta Falcons. Last year did not make the list. This year, he is going to be the next Kam Chancellor. It looks like Kam Chancellor may be retiring, may not be retiring. Either way, Kam Chancellor has been the bona fide bodyguard, bouncer, jacked up, throw it over the middle, I'm going to take your head off safety. That, you know, he's the enforcer of the NFL. And if he moves on, Keyon ONeal is going to be that guy that steps up and fills his spot. Last year with the Falcons, Keyon ONeal had 113 total tackles, 1 interception, 6 pass deflections, 3 forced fumbles, as well as made the Pro Bowl. And he's already, you know, identified himself as that dude. The dude that you're not going to throw the ball over the middle. You're going to be hesitant to throw those quick slants. You're going to be hesitant to have your running back catch it out of the backfield, because he's going to let your guy up, and more often than not, there's going to be a fumble, there's going to be an injured player, something like that. And, you know, you may want to throw a hashtag Florida Gator bias here, but I think ultimately when you look at the scope of the NFL, Keyon ONeal is one of the best young safeties in football and has a, you know, emerging reputation as a monster hitter. I remember when he got drafted by the Falcons, a lot of people kind of shit on this pick. They said, oh, why are you getting Keyon ONeal here? He could be picked up in the 2nd round, 3rd round. Kind of was being mocked in that range. But, I mean, yeah, could have seen Keyon ONeal being a little bit of a reach when the Falcons took him, but ultimately what they're getting right now is, like I said, man, Kam Chancellor 2.0. He is the future of the monster safety in the NFL for the upcoming seasons. Going to number 97, showing love to the youngsters, we're going Rubin Foster from San Francisco. Did not make the list last year because he played for Alabama. Now, he had some off-the-field issues. It came out that basically his girlfriend was trying to frame him and ruin his career, which was kind of shady. But, I mean, he still has kind of been one of those guys that has a nose for trouble. And I think if you're a 49er fan, you're skeptical. You may actually want to continue to build linebacking depth because you could have another Aldon Smith on your hands. But when he is on the field, much like Aldon Smith, he's an absolute game changer. Last year, Rubin Foster, 72 tackles. He had a 90.7 Pro Football Focus grade, which was the 2nd highest out of the entire rookie draft class. And, you know, the fact that if he would have played a full 16 games, he would have had probably 120, 130 tackles, maybe a little bit more production in terms of turnovers. I think the future is incredibly bright for Rubin Foster, and where we take some of these guys where reputation kind of would elevate them over a poor season. That's why we talked about a couple of the honorable mentions there. Guy like this, we're jolting him here because I expect him to be a staple of this list as long as he can keep his nose clean and stay on the field for many years to come. So I don't think he actually made the official NFL Top 100, but we're showing him love here today, and that is Mr. Rubin Foster of the San Francisco 49ers. Going to number 96. It is going to be the first Philadelphia Eagle on the list, and it is going to be the bodyguard, Jason Peters, who last year, I didn't even rank him last year. He wasn't anything. I think I actually had him in my honorable mentions last season. But Jason Peters, we need to show some respect to a guy that played, you know, he played most of the season, most of the first half of the season. We have a couple offensive linemen in particular. We kind of weigh their Pro Football Focus grades. Like David Bakhtiari. He obviously had an outstanding season for the Green Bay Packers, missed a lot of games. Jason Peters missed a lot of games. And you have guys that just had down years like Trent Williams. So it's all about finding a balance there. But when you look at what Jason Peters did for the Philadelphia Eagles, he gave up 0 sacks and had a Pro Football Focus grade when he got hurt of an 86.9, which compared to the rest of the tackles, that is 2nd highest in the NFL. Now, a lot of people are going to claim, oh, Eagles bias and stuff like that, but considering my grading thing, where I grade based off their season performance, where he graded as the 2nd highest tackle before he got hurt, the fact that he has this future Hall of Fame bona fide persona, he's everything that ticks out the boxes, and the production last year to crack our list here at 96. But in reality, let's be honest, the first 10 from 100 to 90, talking about the guys that made the list, talking about the guys that didn't make the list. It's kind of a crapshoot. So, you know, maybe there's a little Eagle bias with this Jason Peters selection. I guarantee you, though, out of all the Eagles players that make this list, he's the only one that I kind of said, you know, let's look at the honorable mentions. Would I put them over Jason Peters in my list? Because this is ultimately my list. It's partial. I try to keep it. I just kept saying no. The fact that he was the second highest offensive tackle before he went down just speaks to, like, you know, you got to respect that. And he's Jason Peters. Stud. He's stud. He's a stud of the Dragon. Let's see here. All right. Going to number 95. We're going Odell Beckham Jr., who, look, you could just see last year. Everyone knows I hate him. He's my most hated player. And if I truly want to just shit on him, I would just constantly every year say he's overrated and just say all these things. I had him at number 18 last year. I had him as a top 20 player, as a guy that absolutely despised him. But the fact that he only played in 4 games, 3.5 games, that drastically is going to affect your mark. And I would say right now, when you look at all the players that did miss significant time, there's no J.J. Watt on this list. It's not, it's, you know, I still value his reputation enough to even find him on here at number 95. Last season, in 4 games, he had 25 catches, 300 yards, 3 touchdowns. He's an absolute game changer. So even with those 3 games, I kind of justify it like this. What kind of impact did he make during those 3 games? We saw him go off against the Philadelphia Eagles in the game. Then ultimately, the Eagles were able to kick a 64-yard game-winning field goal from our rookie kicker, Jake Elliott. But Odell was unstoppable in that game. That was kind of on the Philadelphia Eagles. I disagree with the way that they were covering him. But Odell was so dominant in those 4 games that he, you know, even though he missed 3/4 of the season, and it kind of goes against everything on my list to put guys that miss that much time. I still value what he did in those 4 games is good enough still to make this list. I feel like it would be too harsh to just say, like, you know, he missed all those games. We can't put him on here. So we have Odell at number 95, and surely, you know, unless something crazy happens, he will bounce back, and, you know, it'll probably pay me to put him maybe higher than 18 with a fully healthy season. Going to number 94. We have Jerrell Casey of the Tennessee Titans. Last year we had him at 96. Getting a little bit of a bump here. 2-point bump to number 94. Now, I have an issue with Jerrell Casey, and it's an issue that I've had with, as you know, in the Eagles fan. We have a couple players on our defensive line. Like, every year that you're considered underrated, you know, I think that if you're considered underrated for, like, every year of your career, maybe there's something, you know, maybe it's not this everyone that's talking about him. Maybe it's actually the player himself. And I constantly see that. When I look at Jerrell Casey, I just see a guy that's a good player. He's a good player that can have great games, can certainly take them over. But ultimately, he's just, you know, I have him in this range. Is he a top 100 player? Yes, he is. But is he the guy that, you know, should be in the 40s and 50s? I think he actually got overrated this year in the NFL top 100. They had him higher than, I know, like Fletcher Cox and stuff like that, which is ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. I think they had him over Geno Atkins, I believe, for a defensive line. That's absurd. Last year, Jerrell Casey had 60 tackles, 6 sacks, 1 forced fumble, and made the Pro Bowl. That's good stats. Those are good numbers for a guy that plays, you know, a 3-4 defensive end. Those aren't breathtaking numbers. Those aren't astonishing numbers. So, you know, it's one of those things where I still admit that maybe he's a little underrated, but I can't justify putting him higher than 94. Going to number 93, it is going to be T.Y. Hilton of the Indianapolis Colts. Last year, T.Y. Hilton with very, very inconsistent quarterback play. Still finished with 57 catches, 966 yards, and 4 touchdowns, as well as made the Pro Bowl. Now, I kind of balanced this of, I didn't have T.Y. Hilton on my list last year, and I kind of felt bad because, you know, he definitely is, on his day, one of the most electrifying outside wide receivers. And then you kind of consider what he had to work with in Indianapolis last year with just, you know, a revolving George Jacoby Brissett. You had a little bit of this. You had a little bit of that. I think Stephen Morris might have even found himself on the field at this time. The fact that you still almost break 1,000 yards with that at quarterback, it really, you know, kind of shows how good of a playmaker you are. You know, a DeAndre Hopkins, the guy that we're going to talk about a little bit later, seems almost quarterback proof. Whatever quarterback's in there, he still will get the targets and try to make the most of those targets. And even though Hopkins had a down year 2 years ago and had a massive year last year, he's just one of those guys. There's only a couple wide receivers in the NFL that truly are quarterback proof, and I kind of think you can throw a guy like T.Y. Hilton in that mix, where he has his reputation of just being a pure deep threat. He can make a lot happen with maybe not the highest talent throwing him the rock. Going to number 92, we have Chris Harris Jr. of the Denver Broncos. Last year, he was number 12. did not look very good. I probably watched 4 or 5 Bronco games. Yes, not a huge scope if you're a diehard Denver Bronco fan. He did not impress me one bit. I mean, obviously, I saw that game against Philadelphia where that entire defense got embarrassed. But I don't know what was with it. I don't know if it was just the fact that the offense was 3 and out a lot of times and the defense gassed, which I probably would think it is. But ultimately, Chris Harris last year, 42 tackles, 2 interceptions, 7 pass breakups. Now, I know, on his day, you put him on a good defense. He's one of the best corners in football. But again, we have this kind of valuation, 60% of what you did last year. And given a scenario, I mean, he still had his partner there, Keith to leave. Still had the Darian Stewart back there, that famed. Von Miller was still there getting pressure after the quarterback. So, the fact that those numbers, and he got burnt by a lot of guys that I wouldn't expect Chris Harris to get beat by. Yeah, this is a big drop. This probably is like the biggest drop, one of the biggest drops you're going to see on this list. But I think, he should bounce back next year. With Casey at the helm, the offense should stay on the field longer, keep that defense rested, and a bounce back year for Chris Harris, who, pound for pound, is one of the best corners in football. Going to number 91. It's going to be Snacks Harrison from the New York Giants last year. Number 63 on my list. However, this year, again, it's tough to really value anyone on a very poor and average and injury-ravaged Giants defense. You don't got much clout anymore. 76 tackles, 1 sack. Is he one of the best run-stopping defensive tackles in football? Absolutely. Did that really make any difference last year for the Giants defense? No. And because of that, because there is limitations to a guy that predominantly stops the run, I still show respect to Snacks. He's an absolute monster. Probably will, maybe in James Betcher's new scheme, the 3-4, he might even be more productive against the run. But ultimately, for a guy that just stops running backs, I still think putting him at 91 is kind of generous. I don't even think, did he make the top 100 for NFL? If he did, he might not have been super high up on that list. So, it is what it is. I do feel like it's not being too harsh. I feel like this is about right for where Snacks Harrison should be. But we are going to talk about another New York Giant in just a couple picks. If you're a Giant fan, you're going to see pretty much all your good players go right out the board in the first couple picks. Got to be a little salty. But that is the picks rundown just for now. And now let's move back and play a little Madden so I can have a swig of water, swig of non-alcoholic beverage, which I'll probably have to crack into a little bit later. And let's play this game. So we're going to play here against the Dallas Cowboys. We'll just play the moments. That's usually going to be like 3 or 4 minutes. Then we'll go through the next 10, so on, so forth, and yonder. So there you go. Those are the first 10. This bias is going to put Graham, Cox, and Wentz in the top 10. False. What do you say? You better not put Malcolm Jenkins over Landon Collins. Malcolm Jenkins did not make my list. You wonder where they're going to be. What are these players going to be? You got to watch. Gonna have to watch. Well, like I said, man, from the official top 100, I know people are going to be counting the Eagles that we're playing, or that we put in. I only have one more Eagle than what, obviously they haven't announced Carson Wentz yet on the official 100 list. I only have one more Eagle than what made that list. I'm an Eagles fan. I'm incredibly critical. Did Landry make the list? Yes, he did. So we're actually playing with that Eagles franchise that we started the Madden 18 season with. So we got Saquon Barkley actually on the Philadelphia Eagles, which is a sight to behold. Jalen Ramsey, top 15. You gotta watch. Gonna have to watch. Nick Foles, I was gonna put him in the honorable mentions because he won the goddamn Super Bowl MVP, but I figured people would shit on me too much. So I was like, yeah, I'm not gonna put Nick Foles on. Is any safety higher than Harrison Smith? Gonna have to watch. Nick Foles did not make the list. Why are these quarters so long? I think Harris Smith definitely not overrated, man. He was shut down. He definitely did not. No one. I was gonna say he definitely did nothing against the Eagles, but no one on that Vikings defense that's full of absolute studs on defense did anything against the Eagles. Any Bears? There are definitely a couple Bears. Deshaun Watson. I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't know if Deshaun Watson made the list. Now that I think about it, and I'm a Deshaun Watson fan. I've come out and state that for any quarterback that's not on the Eagles roster, Deshaun Watson is probably my next favorite. Oh, you gotta catch that. I will say that if you're a Lions fan, you're gonna like my list. I think Lions fans in particular like where I put a guy on their list. And I will say, absolutely, I made this thing on Twitter where I said if anyone can guess where Carson Wentz, I have him on my list, and my top 3. No one got it right, which makes me believe that there's going to be a surprise top 3 pick. Any Jets? No Jets made it. I had Demario Davis as my first honorable mention. Other than that, oh, come on, Carson. Other than that, the Jets didn't have anyone that really stood out. You know, Leonard Williams is really good. Jamal Adams is pretty solid, but just, you know, not top 100 worthy. I think the Jets and the Browns. I think there's only 2 or 3 teams that straight up didn't have a guy that made the list. I think it's the Jets, Browns, and, well, Browns traded for a couple players that made the list. There you go. Michael Carr doing the damn thing right there. Everyone, Michael Carr will be posting that. Thank you very much, man. I appreciate it. Okay, we're just not going to play the whole second half. Any Colts besides Hilton? Maybe one more? Honestly, can't remember. I'm going to say, I think no, but maybe one more. Any Bears? Yes, there are some Bears. How many Steelers? A bunch. CJ Mosley is definitely higher than 98. He didn't come yet. How long is this going to be? Yes, I actually don't really give a shit about hockey, but I will try to watch. I want to watch this. Oh, my God. The finals. Any Cowboys? I don't know how many Cowboys made the list, but I put one Dallas Cowboy real high. Higher than he's probably, I think higher than he made the NFL list, because I kind of respect that he was so dominant last year. So we'll talk about him in a second. Come on. Oh, let's go Callaway. Oh, you got moshed by Antonio Callaway. All right, we'll pick this up a little bit, because like I said, I only want like a couple minutes here to just kind of just chill for a sec. You guys can assess the list. More so I can just drink because my voice is going to shit. I've been up since 5 in the morning because, you know, I got a kid that didn't want to sleep. So I don't want to hold you guys up too long. And I don't want this playback to be like someone's like, oh, I want to watch the top 100. Oh, it's a 4-hour live stream. Not going to watch that. So we'll do it. Okay, let's just not run the play action pass and then get sacked. Awesome. David Irving. What team has the most players? I honestly don't know. I know Philly has a bunch because obviously they won the Super Bowl. I think that the Saints, Philly Saints, Jags, Chiefs, probably. I don't know. I'm literally just guessing. Juju Smith did not make it. Juju Smith didn't even break 1,000 yards, I don't think. He's really good, but, oh my God, come on, Carson. Ryan Shazier did not make the list because he got hurt. David Irving got considered because as an Eagle fan, that guy's a monster. Got considered, but just didn't play enough. I think if he played a full 16 games, he would have had probably 12 or 13 sacks from a D tackle spot. He's an absolute monster. He's actually kind of overpowered in Madden, too. All right, let's finish this up. Finish this game up here. Thank you very much. I'll pop back in to the rest of the list. My kid is doing all right, man. Thanks. He was real cranky today because it's humid. But we got through it. Now it's my time just to chill and do this. Jalen Mills did not make the list. I think legit, bro, I think Panther fans might be a little upset with how many Panthers I put on this list. Okay, so we'll sim to the next week, which is a bye. And let's get right back into this. So we finished at number 91 last time with Snacks Harrison. Take a swig of this real quick. All right, so we're at number 91, Snacks Harrison. Moving on, number 90. We're going with another Philadelphia Eagle. Wow, C4, you're really backloading the Eagles. Yeah, because I didn't want to come off as a biased asshole. We're going with Brandon Brooks. 90 on the list. Last year did not make it. Here's some info for Brandon Brooks. 88.7 Pro Football Focus grade. That is the second highest, I believe. Second or third highest. I couldn't find confirmation that it was second. But he's top 3 offensive guard, according to Pro Football Focus. And the most important stat, 0 sacks. There's a lot of guards that will give up 2 or 3 sacks but grade out well from Pro Football Focus. When I see a guard give up 0 sacks, especially with a scrambling quarterback like Carson Wentz, the pocket oftentimes gets destroyed. If you're a Panthers fan, you might remember that game when Low Kuechly got absolutely blown up against the Philadelphia Eagles. His name was Brandon Brooks. He gave up no sacks, finally got some recognition, made the Pro Bowl. I think he might have been second team All-Pro, but not like from Associated Press, so I didn't really count it. But Brandon Brooks got a lot of respect this year, and we have to show it on the list, man. He's definitely probably the 3rd best guard in football. He's in that conversation. You got Zach Martin, you got David DeCastro, and I think Brandon Brooks is right there. So we put him at number 90. This is actually the only Philadelphia Eagle that didn't make the official top 100 that I just think it was getting slept on. So there you go. Going to number 89. Now remember, where I said it's 60% what you did. In reality, out of 100% of what makes this list, maybe 10-15% is reputation-based. It should be considered, but not the defining factor. This is a guy that I like. Like I said in my stream, if Deshaun Watson is my favorite quarterback that doesn't wear a Philadelphia Eagles jersey, this guy's probably my 3rd. He has to come at 89, and that's Ben Roethlisberger. Big Ben. Couldn't put his full name there because the template I made, it's too big. Hey, Ben, change your last name. Change it. But Ben Roethlisberger, 12-3, great record, but considering the weapons that he had, 4,200 yards, 28 TDs to 14 picks, you should do better. And ultimately, the number one factor is because I have him in fantasy football, so I took a little bit notice. He is still very bad on the road. Having a quarterback that's only really excels and has strong games, more often than not, it's not a 100% definition of Ben Roethlisberger, but in reality, he is drastically worse on the road. And for me, I don't know what's going on with that. I don't know what that is. I don't know if they just straight up decide we're just going to run the ball. We're not going to let him throw the ball. We don't trust Ben to throw the ball on the road. We saw what happened against the Jacksonville Jaguars. He did decent in the playoffs, 469 yards, 5 touchdowns, 1 pick, and a shootout loss. But ultimately, Ben Roethlisberger is a guy that not only I think should kind of have better stats, considering he has Le'Veon Bell, considering he has one of the best offensive lines. You have Antonio Brown, the number 1 wide receiver in football. You have emerging superstar and Juju Smith-Schuster. Stat line should be a little bit better, and the fact that he's incredibly inconsistent on the road had to come in here at number 89. I say that as a fan of Ben Roethlisberger. Going to number 88, probably the biggest drop you're going to see on this list. Still should make it, and that's going to be Landon Collins. As Giant fans just start salting the earth here. Last year, I had him at number 8. Last year, I actually said he very well should have been higher regarded in the Defensive Player of the Year race. But, again, the Giants' defense did not look good. I'll say right now, there's still a Giant defender that's higher than him. But ultimately, last year, 99 tackles, 2 interceptions, 6 pass breakups, made the Pro Bowl. That is what he did 2 years ago, that year, this last year was a drastic difference. And obviously the team was different. The defense is on the field more. But, if you're a playmaker, you're still going to make plays. Another play that we're going to talk about in this Giants defense, yes, they sucked. He still made plays. We saw Landon Collins get exposed in a couple games. Didn't look anything like the all-pro that he was 2 years ago. And we can't fully fault him on that. There were some injuries. The Giants as a team weren't that good. But when we're talking about the top 100 players from the last season, and 60% of that, the majority, is how you played last season, is he still good enough to make the top 100? Yeah, but 88 is where it's at. And That's pretty much all I can say about Landon Collins coming in at number 88. I think he made the Pro Bowl as well because everyone makes the Pro Bowl. He must have been third or fourth alternate or something like that. All right, moving on to number 87. We're going to be talking about old man Cam Wake, who last year made number 42 on our list, CFL's finest. However, this year Cam Wake, just because he's really one-dimensional, he's got to come in at 87. Last year, Cam Wake, 36 tackles, 10.5 sacks, still one of the premier edge rushers, but that's pretty much all he offers. He didn't really have any forced fumbles, no turnovers, didn't make the Pro Bowl, but still is a dominant edge rusher and still an absolute game changer. Gonna have to step it up this year. No Ndamukong Suh eating up the double teams in the middle, but I think, still, you gotta show respect to Cam Wake. I think he came in the 70s or 60s or something like that on the NFL's top 100. He's a guy, again, based off of his entire reputation of his career, kind of gets the veteran boost here over a couple guys. I think he should make most people's top 100. 87 could be seen a little bit high for a guy that just had 10.5 sacks, no turnovers, but ultimately we respect Cam Wake, and because he has such a tenured career in the NFL over some of these other guys. Like I said, Landon Collins had one big year. Brandon Brooks really had one massive year. Same could be said for Rubin Foster and stuff like that. So we know Cam Wake reputation helps him out here, but I think 87 is about where he should rank on these lists. Going to number 86, it is going to be Gerald McCoy of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Last year we had him at number 37. This year a little bit of a drop because that Bucs defense was horrendous. Now you can't fully put him to blame, but ultimately his stats were about 86 given his reputation. 47 tackles on the year, 6 sacks, made the Pro Bowl because, everybody makes the Pro Bowl. But, he's still really, really good. And with all the changes that happened for the Bucs, especially on the defensive side of the ball, getting Vita Vea in the draft is definitely going to help out. You got Gerald McCoy, JPP, who's the other dude? Vinny Curry coming over from my Philadelphia Eagles. You got Bo Allen also to help out there at D-tackle. It's going to be a much better defensive line, which should let Joe McCoy get much better stats and get after the quarterback and focus on being the elite pass rusher from the interior that he is. But 86 for him this season. Go to number 85. It's going to be Marvin Jones from the Detroit Lions. Did not make the list last year. This year, even though as a fantasy football owner, it seemed like he would have one massive week and then do absolutely nothing for 3 weeks. His final stat line needs to get some respect. Last year, Marvin Jones finished with 61 catches for 1,100 yards and 9 touchdowns. And he also has the ability just to make jaw-dropping catches. This guy here is going to have, should have a very high spectacular catch rating. I don't know what game it was. Might have been on Thanksgiving, man. He balled out. He made a bunch of plays. I think if you're even a Lions fan, though, you can admit that he is inconsistent. He's a streaky type player. Have, hot and cold streaks. And if he could have more balance to it, it probably would be better. But, for what they paid for him, he's not really, but he kind of is the replacement to Calvin Johnson. He was the guy they spent big money in free agency. That's good production, 1,100 yards and 9 touchdowns. It's not Calvin Johnson, but in pairing with maybe what Kenny Golladay could bring next year, those two could combine to replace what they lost in Calvin Johnson. Going to number 84, we're going to talk about Devonta Freeman from the Atlanta Falcons. Last year, coming at number 47. This year, still I actually think he's a little bit underrated. I really do like his running style. But just his stats weren't anything spectacular. So, again, a little bit of reputation-based, but still definitely deserved to make this list. Finished with almost 1,200 yards from scrimmage, 8 total touchdowns, and in the playoffs, he had 100 yards from scrimmage and 2 total touchdowns. Ultimately, they didn't use him when they played the Philadelphia Eagles. I think if they got Devonta Freeman a little bit more involved, the result may have been different. But ultimately, when it comes to, rating the top 10 running backs in football, and knowing that I was a running back myself, and if I have to be impartial to a particular position for these lists, it's going to be the running back spots. Devonta Freeman is always going to crack my top 100 as long as he's the every down starter there in Atlanta. Going to number 83, it is going to be Ndamukong Suh, now of the Rams, formerly of the Miami Dolphins. Last year I had him at number 64. This year, again, the stats, he's one of those guys that, a lot of D tackles, like we'll talk about Fletcher Cox a little bit later. It's the reputation around the league. There's a lot that we don't know, and when you look at D tackles, it's a tough spot. So, you kind of want to offload a little bit of how you rate defensive tackles to Pro Football Focus, who kind of dive into gap control and eating on double teams, because that's incredibly valuable. Defensive tackles, you look at the linebackers behind them. How productive are those linebackers? A lot of their production and success comes from good defensive tackle play. That's kind of where Ndamukong Suh comes in, because he eats up double teams. His stat line's not spectacular. 48 tackles, 4.5 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, but he is well respected. He is an absolute monster. And, now pairing him with Aaron Donald in there in LA, that is pretty goddamn terrifying, especially from a Madden standpoint, where yes, I control and use the defensive line, which is, you know, for whatever reason, kind of lacks a lot of respect in the Madden community. Nah. Did you watch any of my live streams when I play Mutt Squad? You put me at D end, I'm going to get you 2 sacks a game minimum. I'm an animal. So, a guy like Dominic Sue, a lot of it is reputation-based. He's an absolute beast, and it has been, you know, for his entire tenure in the NFL. So I think 83 is a good spot here. I think he got much higher on the official top 100. He constantly is for the top 100. I think constantly is a little bit overrated, so I think 83 is a good spot for him. Go number 82, we have Jordan Howard of the Chicago Bears. Last year, like the official top 100 didn't even make Jordan Howard. Jordan Howard didn't even crack it. So I had him at 61 last year. I showed him respect. This year, a little bit of a drop-off in production. Finished with 1,200 yards from scrimmage and 9 total touchdowns. But I think that tandem of him and Tariq Cohen is going to be really big in the future. I think he's a really, really underrated running back. And I've had him, you know, I thought I had him mocked by Philadelphia Eagles when he was coming out of Indiana. I said he was going to be the mid-round steal, and we saw what he did behind a Bears line. Now, there's a little bit of turnover for the Chicago Bears. No more Josh Sitton, who, you know, has always been one of the best run-blocking offensive guards in football. So there's going to be a little bit of change there, but ultimately, I fully expect Jordan Howard to have another nice season next year in tandem with Tariq Cohen, and he comes in at 82. And last but not least for this segment of 10, at 81, we have Justin Houston of the Kansas City Chiefs. Last year, after an injury-riddled season where I think he only played the final 6 games, he was at 98. This year, he's coming in at 81. He finished with 59 tackles, 9.5 sacks, 1 interception, and he had 1 sack in the playoffs. So, you know, the stats aren't exactly what they used to be. He was a guy that you could always count on for like 15 sacks minimum. I don't know if he's still getting up to speed, what have you last year. Chiefs fans, you could kind of enlighten me. But still, he is an incredibly talented edge rusher. And if he can put it all together there, at any given time, he's a guy that can absolutely take over a game and wreak havoc from the edge. So we're going to show some respect here to Justin Houston. And I don't think he actually made the NFL Top 100, which is a little naughty. A little naughty, I think, because you know you definitely see some players reputation-based made it. And, you know, I don't want to say he slept on because he almost broke the sack record like 2-3 seasons ago. But maybe he doesn't get the kind of respect he deserves anymore because he's, you know, had some injury troubles. And the Chiefs have been, you know, more so the Travis Kelce, Tyreek Hill show and less about the defense with Justin Houston and, say, Eric Berry. So that is the next 10. And we will be moving to just another quick gameplay here of the Philadelphia Eagles. So you guys can all digest that. And we got a donation from it's Tristan. It's my boy Tristan. Appreciate it, man. Lindquist is the beast. Shout out to the Snowhawks. Everyone remembers the Snowhawks. And it's in euros. Or the pounds. That's actually huge for here in Canada. I remember when I went to England, everything was like triple. It was bullshit. But honestly, I can't. If people are like shit on the list stuff, like my screen is what you guys see for the most part. I don't have the chat like right there. So you know, if anyone's losing their shit, I'm kind of enjoying it. That's the best thing about these lists. Like my favorite thing on Twitter is, you know, my favorite thing is when the NFL posts the official post of the top 100, just shitting on the picks. So it's what you want to see. So we're gonna send this one out. And then we're going to go from 80 all the way to 71. Let's see. Do I see anyone that people are going to be pissed off about on this next spot? 80 to 71. Nah. I think you guys are going to be pretty satisfied with this next. Aaron Donald, number 1. Aaron Donald's not number 1. What sliders? Flaxcos on Operation Sports. Go to operationsports.com. Madden. And you find it. Thanks for the donation, Joseph. Appreciate it. Who's your favorite Bengal? My favorite Bengal? Oh, come on. The one that makes designs. Ha! Nah, really? I don't know. Mix it? No. It's gonna be Carlos Dunlap. Gators, baby. Carlos Dunlap all day. I moved the stream. Zach, because I was bored as shit. I was like, why am I sitting around here? I'd rather finish this so I can just go drink and, you know, there's some hockey on. And I was up since 5 in the morning. So, real tired. Real sleepy, real nappy. Oh, fuck off. Who's my favorite Viking? Probably Stephon Diggs. Probably Diggs. Aguilar does not make this list. I'll tell you that right now. For all of you that know what the NFL Top 100, there's no more surprise. Brandon Brooks was the only Eagle that I had different than the actual guys that made the list. And I didn't actually have the same amount of Eagles because Malcolm Jenkins made the list officially. Oh my fuck, how'd I miss that? And I didn't have him on my list. Andy Dalton's not on the list. Who's my favorite Patriot? Gronk, without a doubt. I love Gronk. Favorite Ram? Aaron Donald, Todd Gurley, like both those guys. Aaron Donald, I pounded the table for Aaron Donald during that draft process. I remember so many people were sleeping on him because he was undersized. I was like, dude had like 31 tackles for loss as a D tackle for Pitt. He's gonna be really good, and he's been a monster. And even though I'm a Gator fan and I'm supposed to hate everything Georgia Bulldogs, Todd Gurley is an incredible player, and I've always respected him. This is what we're doing now. Favorite. That gridiron amino thing, Joe's. I tried looking at it once. I didn't know what the hell it was about. I couldn't find anything about football on it. Favorite Buffalo Bill. It puts the lotion on its skin, or else it gets the hose again. People might get that. I don't know. Reality, probably Shady. Wounds have healed. I like Shady. Favorite Steeler. Ben Roethlisberger. Favorite Iowa Hawkeye. I don't know anyone in Iowa this year. I don't think on the top of my head. Last year, obviously Josie Jewell. I like Iowa just for the thing they do with the Children's Hospital. As someone myself that spent a lot of time in a Children's Hospital when I was a kid, luckily my kid hasn't had to endure that yet. That's like my soft spot. I do like a lot of donations and stuff like that for the local Children's Hospital. So I think what the Iowa Hawkeyes do for that, it's fucking awesome. Favorite Lion? My favorite Detroit Lion. Might be theoretic because he won me a lot of money. I used to like get it. He's my PPR starting running back. But it's Jared Davis, Florida Gator. Tease Tabor. It's probably, yeah, Jared Davis. We're gonna get that. Alright, let's go. Let's just throw up the Alshon here. Oh, there you go. Alshon. Just like the Super Bowl. Just like the Super Bowl. Brady #1. C4 get a PS4. I'm still working on a PS4, man. I think next year I might bite the bullet. The YouTube funds are a little bit down, so I can't drop like $300 on a PS4 right now. But when the Madden 19 boom starts, I think I'm gonna do it so I can do some videos with the two Madden YouTubers that I like in Param Crow and Not the Expert. There was a dude doing the recap, so I don't know if he's still here, but he was doing the recap. Alright, we're gonna start playing. Like I said, we're almost an hour in. For God's sakes. So I'm gonna pick this up a little bit. We're just gonna play like a couple plays, and then we're gonna jump right in again. But I kind of hope Madden comes out. There's like a rumor that Madden 19 might come out on PC, and I hope a lot of people do that, like YouTubers and stuff, because that's just gonna be the easiest way to like collab and shit. C4, who's your favorite Jag? I mean, I kind of like obviously Jalen Ramsey. I'm a big fan. We're just gonna sim this whole fucking game here. Play key moments. Big field goal. All right, let's keep winning. I like Leonard Fournette. Yeah, I'd say I'd probably go Jalen Ramsey though. He's a beast. I like the trash talking. He's like a modern day Deion Sanders. Oh, come on. Alright, we're coming for those last 41 seconds to try to win it. Who wins, Caps or Knights? For what little I know about hockey, I'm kind of pulling for Ovechkin to win his first Stanley Cup. Favorite Charger? This is why everyone's just gonna ask me whatever fucking team. Chargers. Joey Bosa. Keyon ONeal. One of those two. Favorite Packer. Favorite Packer. I don't know if I have one. Rodgers, maybe. Just easy. I don't hate. A lot of people do hate Aaron Rodgers. I think he's kind of awesome. So. Oh my God, Shawn! Are you kidding me? Oh, he's so slow though, but he gets it. All right. Let's finish this shit. Who says you don't get no gameplay? That's one hell of a play. All right. Let's move back in to the list, everybody. Hey, Dad, you add people on Xbox. I have you on Xbox. Don't I, Tristan? I'm pretty sure I have Tristan on Xbox. Thank you, Ground Scarecrow. A PS4 would be... I mean, I do really want one. Me and Paracrow have been talking about doing a video in the future, the near future, because he actually has that YouTube buddy. But yeah, man, it seems like all the cool YouTubers that I think that, you know, for someone that doesn't like to do that stuff, do collabs, all the ones that are awesome are on fucking PlayStation. So, that'd be pretty cool. Alright, we're going back to the list. So, we finished off at 81, which was Justin Houston. So moving on to number 80. Fuck off. It's going to be Linval Joseph of the Minnesota Vikings. Last year did not crack the list. But again, kind of like Snacks Harrison, you got to show respect to the guys that stop the run. I was a running back by trade. I hated going up against nose tackles that were really good. That could actually bring me down. Linval Joseph is that, except, you know, in big boy form. Last season, Linval Joseph, 68 tackles, 3.5 sacks, and made the Pro Bowl. And debatably was the second best player on the Minnesota Vikings, not named Harrison Smith. But again, you know, it's not a sexy position to talk about. He's not going to get a lot of clout. But ultimately, you show respect for the guys that get dirty and do the thing within the trenches. And that is going to be Linval Joseph, making my list for the very first time. Going to number 79. It is going to be Phillip Rivers. Old Philly Rivers himself. Last year made 81. This year, 79. There's only so much reputation to get by. I think he is one of the more underrated quarterbacks. I did a video not too long ago talking about the underrated players in the league, and I do think Phillip Rivers kind of falls in that territory. But when you compare him against the other quarterbacks that had good seasons last year, I think 79 is about where it should be. 9-7 as a starter, played great down the stretch, 4,500 passing yards, 28 TDs to 10 picks, and made the Pro Bowl. So statistically, he's, you know, slightly better than Ben Roethlisberger, which is kind of where we have them at this list. Also putting into consideration that quarterbacks are going to be valued just a little bit higher over some of the other positions that we're going to talk about. So I think the Chargers are probably my dark horse team, even though I don't think necessarily they're getting that, you know, reputation. I think a lot of people actually are expecting big things from the Chargers. But if I had to take a team that didn't make the playoffs, that could make the playoffs, that still aren't getting talked about enough, it's going to be the Chargers, man, because I think that West is going to be a division that could be anyone's game and very well might come down to what team can stay the healthiest. And the Chargers are already off to a great start with that, with Hunter Henry, who's trying to make that big transition to be one of the next bona fide top 10 tight ends in the league, tearing his ACL, which sucks. So love to find a way around that. Phillip Rivers, though, coming in at 79. Number 78, we're talking about Davante Adams for the Green Bay Packers. Last year came in at 97. This year, 78. Now, I saw that he came very high in the NFL Top 100, and I thought that was ridiculous. He's a very good player. I liked him out of Fresno. I liked him in college. People that are going to be shitting on this are Packer fans that are like, oh, what college did he go to? When he was at Fresno State with Derek Carr, I was like, man, this guy's really good. Not a lot of people talked about him in regards to the draft. I think he went, what, third, fourth, mid-round, somewhere like that. I saw a beast, but in reality, you know, he had 800 yards, 885 yards, 74 catches, 10 touchdowns. He's effective in the red zone, but when there's so many other weapons there, you know, you kind of need to, you know, balance that. It's all relative to the players and supporting cast he had. That being said, when you have Brett Hundley throwing you the ball and you still are able to put up 10 touchdowns on the season for, like, you know, the second half of the year, obviously a lot of that production came with Aaron Rodgers, you know, you still got to show some respect to Davante Adams, which is why, you know, where this is more what you did last year and less reputation, a guy, that wide receiver that doesn't break 1,000 yards, coming at number 78, I think is really good on my list. I guess you have to take my word for it. So, that's, could be a little bit debated. He could be higher because he did. I think he has back-to-back 10 touchdown or double touchdown seasons, double-digit touchdown seasons. But for me, 78 is about where I feel comfortable putting Davante Adams. Go to number 77. We're going to have Deion Jones from the Atlanta Falcons. Last year was not ranked, but is an emerging superstar. He's one of those guys after his combine where he was like athletically superior than pretty much every linebacker. The fact that he went like late in the second to the Falcons a couple years ago, I was like, really? You went this far? Last year, Deion Jones had 138 tackles, 3 interceptions, 10 pass breakups, one of the best cover linebackers in the game. Because in reality, he is in that linebacker safety body style and athletic build. Made the Pro Bowl. So did obviously I don't know if I said Davante Adams made the Pro Bowl last year. But I mean, like again, I wrote the Pro Bowl for guys that made it. The Pro Bowl doesn't really matter anymore. It's pretty much all pros and stuff because literally like 4, 5-string guys that get voted to the Pro Bowl actually play, and it shows up on their credentials. But Deion Jones is a legitimate emerging superstar at the linebacking spot, and I personally think he'll be much higher on next year's list. Going to number 76 is going to be Doug Baldwin of the Seattle Seahawks. Last year came in at number 82. This year, 76. A little bit of a bump. Pretty much was the only person not named Russell Wilson that made a lot of plays on the offensive side of the ball. Is that throwing shade at Jimmy Graham? I don't think so. But last year, Doug Baldwin, 75 catches, 991 yards, and 8 touchdowns. So just, a little bit, right in that territory of Davante Adams in terms of stats. But, the slight tiebreaker, if you will, is that Doug Baldwin's done it for the last 4 or 5 years, whereas Davante Adams is more so the last 2. So the little bit of the reputation, a little bit of the clout has Doug Baldwin coming in just a little bit higher than Davante Adams. We're going on a run here for wide receivers as we go to number 75, which is Golden Tate of the Detroit Lions. Last year, Golden Tate did not crack the list, but this year I'm showing full respect for one of the best slot wide receivers in football. Last year, 92 catches, 1,000 yards, just over 1,000 yards, and 5 total touchdowns. He's a guy that did the chains. He's reliable. He's a guy that's pretty much why I have him high this value, because he's a guy that on third down, he keeps drives going. That is what, for Philadelphia, because I can bring it back to them because I can talk about them pretty much freely. That's what makes Zach Ertz such a monster, is that maybe even more so than Gronk and Travis Kelce, Zach Ertz is the #1 chain mover at the tight end spot based off of last year, especially during the playoffs. And that is from the wide receiver spot what you get from Golden Tate, which gives him a little bit of added, hidden value. One of those hidden ratings people always talk about in video games? Golden Tate has that just ability to get open on third downs, which is why we show him some respect. He makes the list finally at number 75. Going to number 74 is going to be Alshon Jeffrey of the Philadelphia Eagles. Last year, I did not have him make the list when he was a member of the Chicago Bears. But as I stated at the top of this video, 60% is what you did last year. An additional is what you did during the playoffs. And Alshon Jeffrey was debatably the best wide receiver in the playoffs last year. And he did it with a torn rotator cuff. Last season, for the regular season, he had 57 catches, 800 yards, 9 touchdowns. In the playoffs, 12 catches, 220 yards, 3 touchdowns. And that was with, it is Nick Foles. We talk about Nick Foles, in a better light because we know he went on to win the Super Bowl. But ultimately, he was still working with a backup quarterback for the second half of the season and throughout the playoffs. And still to dominate his position and be debatably our most important skill position player through the entire playoff push. Outside of the quarterback, and it's debatable, but I think Alshon deserves that credential in that respect. He's an absolute animal. I think that if Carson Wentz played the full season, we would have been talking about Alshon a couple spots higher because he probably would have been fringe 1,000 yards, if not above that 1,000-yard mark, and definitely into the double digits of touchdowns. But ultimately, Alshon gets the nod over some of these other guys because of how dominant he was in the playoffs. And like I said, that's the kind of the one little different thing on my list, because if you didn't make the playoffs, it's gonna, you're kind of at a disadvantage. But that's not my fault. Your team sucks. The playoffs are a major point of what makes a player good, what players are actually big time playoff performers, and we're gonna reward that here on this list. So Alshon at 74. Going to number 73. Oh shit. Go to number 73 is gonna be, I think, our last New York Giant, and that is Janoris Jenkins. Last year I had Jackrabbit at number 17. This year I have him at 73. So it kind of comes down to what I said about Landon Collins. Whereas, Landon Collins did not look good statistically because the whole team sucked, right? But playmakers still make plays regardless of the scenario. And that's exactly what Janoris Jenkins did. He played in the same secondary, but in his games, he played only in 8. he had 29 tackles, 3 picks, 9 pass breakups, and 2 of those 3 picks were pick sixes. Jackrabbit is one of the best corners in football. He does not get enough respect. I think when push comes to shove, if you're just going by straight talent, Jackrabbit could be in that top 3 cornerback discussion. I don't know. He's good at everything. He's a good tackler. He's an aggressive playmaker. He has good ball playing ability, great athlete, good vision, kind of like Ed Reed, where George Jenkins was a punt returner in college, a pretty prolific punt returner in college. So guys like that are just really, really dangerous with the ball in their hands. That's why he's able to make 2 of those interceptions go back for 7 or 6, whatever, turned into 7. Yeah, so Jackrabbit coming in at 73. Number 72, we're talking about Juice. Jarvis Landry. Last year did not make the list. Now a member of the Cleveland Browns, but last year of the Miami Dolphins. Again, when you talk about premier slot wide receivers, you can't ignore what Jarvis Landry brings to the table. 112 catches last year, 987 yards, and 9 TDs, as well as made the Pro Bowl. Again, kind of tough when you don't break 1,000 yards. He's one of those, that's like the meme where the Cleveland Browns played Jarvis Landry, and ultimately you say, oh my God, he has like, what, gets like 4 yards a carry or catch because 112. You have 112 catches, you probably should have like 12 or 1,300 yards. But he's the kind of guy that will find a way to only get 987 total yards. But ultimately, you got to show some respect to Jarvis Landry. Again, chain mover adds that value, kind of like Golden Tate. And, we'll see what happens. Didn't have the best quarterback play either last year. Jay Cutler, inconsistent. You give him a guy that's a legitimate starting quarterback, which I'm not saying they have in Cleveland because they don't. He is a 1,000-yard receiver. And then finishing up at 71. Actually, we'll go all the way to 61 here. Moving on to 71 is going to be Leonard Fournette. Last year, didn't make it because he was a rookie. Played for LSU. But as a rookie for the Jacksonville Jaguars, Leonard Fournette had 1,342 yards from scrimmage, 10 total touchdowns in the playoffs, 286 rushing yards, and 4 touchdowns. So he showed up in the playoffs, he showed up in the regular season, and he missed a couple of games. If he would have played a full 16, he probably would have been pretty close to 1,500 yards from scrimmage, add a touchdown or 2 more. He's a monster, man. He's a guy that I actually still don't think got enough respect for what he did last year. Kind of fell, this is the third wheel, if you will, to Kareem Hunt and Alvin Kamara. But Fournette was an absolute monster. And coming in as one of the most hyped draft prospects, not just at the running back spot, but really in like the last decade, he fully lived up to all his expectations. And when you look at what the Jacksonville Jaguars did to the offensive line, bringing in Andrew Norwell, who is pretty much the big fish, the prize of free agency, Leonard Fournette is going to be... I'm telling you right now, for fantasy football, I'm absolutely targeting Leonard Fournette in all my leagues real early. First round, second round, depending on where I'm getting a feeling from my league. He's a guy that I definitely want to roster and was really good last year. So he comes in at 71. Moving to number 70 is going to be Keyon Short of the Carolina Panthers. Last year did not make the list. Again, underrated defensive tackle. Last season, he had 49 tackles, 7.5 sacks, 2 forced fumbles. Also got a sack in the playoffs. He's another guy that does not get enough respect for just what he can do as the interior. I think when you can get pass rush ability from your interior defensive lineman, that is such a bonus. Because so many guys in the interior, like the teams that don't stress and prioritize that position, they just get guys that are just, we eat space and stuff like that. But when you get the premier guys that can do all that, plus chip in to give you 5+ sacks a season, it is so incredibly valuable because, you kind of have to... It makes everyone else around them better. It's probably the one spot, really, on the defense that I could probably say, if you have good defensive tackles, it literally will make everyone else in that front 7 better. And that added value that Keyon Short has makes guys like Luke Kuechly, his job a lot easier, and Thomas Davis, his job a lot easier. So we're showing some respect to Keyon Short. Probably the first guy that a lot of people are surprised he made this list, especially at number 70. But I definitely respect him and respect what he brings to the table. Going to number 69. Ha! Best number. The best number. We're talking about Micah Hyde on the Buffalo Bills. Last year did not make the list because, he was with Green Bay and wasn't anything special. But last year, Sean McDermott, big fan of Sean McDermott, was the last disciple of Jim Johnson here in Philadelphia. He excelled, man. Did Micah Hyde ever excel? He made the Pro Bowl last year, 82 tackles, 5 interceptions, 13 pass breakups. Now, I've asked Bills fans if him and Jordan Poyer both had statistically just outstanding seasons. They kind of just said, it's more of the whole defense. They were kind of in the right place at the right time. They weren't particularly balling out like all pro and stuff like that. But you still have to be in the right place at the right time to make these kind of plays. And I don't know how much I can hold against that. I don't know how Buffalo Bills fans' opinions would differentiate for what I've been told about Mike Hyde and Jordan Poyer, but from what I can see, from what I've seen, 69 is a good starting spot for Mike Hyde. I think he got around this from the NFL Top 100 as well. I think he was in the 60s. I could be wrong on that one. Anyways, moving on to number 68 is going to be Jadeveon Clowney of the Houston Texans. Last year we had him at number 41. This year 68. Stats are, it's one of those things. He's not a J.J. Watt. When J.J. Watt goes down, you kind of hope that Clowney could, be that J.J. Watt. He's never going to be in that upper echelon, I don't think, of the truly elite pass rushers, but he is always going to be an excellent one. Last season, 59 tackles, 9.5 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, had an interception, and made the Pro Bowl. And I think, not that I was kind of shitting on Clowney, but I think with J.J. Watt in that lineup, however, taking a little bit of the attention off Clowney, Clowney can put up those elite edge rush numbers. It's just we haven't been able to really see a healthy Clowney and a healthy J.J. Watt on the field at the same time for a significant period of time. And if that happens in 2018 with what they have on offense and Hopkins and Deshaun Watson, I mean, the Texans are going to be real tough in that AFC South. And I think that a lot of people are kind of seeing it's a foregone conclusion that the Jags are going to win that division. I think the Texans are definitely going to have something to say about that if Clowney has anything to do with it. Moving to number 67. Formerly of the Carolina Panthers, now a new member of the Jacksonville Jaguars, we have Andrew Norwell, who last year did not make the list, but showing up here at 67 is one of the best guards in football. He was a first-team All-Pro. I couldn't find his Pro Football Focus grade, but I'm going to assume from what I could see, he was the number 2 offensive guard behind Zach Martin and just ahead of Brandon Brooks. So we show respect to the offensive lineman here because they get the job done. Again, partial as a running back, you respect the big hug mollies up front. Going to number 66, it is going to be Melvin Ingram of the LA Chargers. Last year did not make the list. Last season, however, was utterly dominant and formed one of the best edge rushing tandems in football with Joey Bosa. Melvin Ingram had 56 tackles, 10.5 sacks, 1 touchdown, and made the Pro Bowl. Again, just an absolute monster coming off the edge. And again, another big reason why the Chargers, no one really talks about them. They have such a good defense. I just think, when it comes down to the Chargers, when we talked about Phillip Rivers, the only thing that get in the Chargers' way is the Chargers and their injuries and their bad luck. I think if they can field a fully healthy team or a mostly fully healthy team, they're going to be scary. And having Melvin Ingram and Joey Bosa come out that edge is a big-time advantage, especially over some of the teams in the AFC West that don't have the strongest offensive lines. So pretty much the Denver Broncos and the Kansas City Chiefs. All right, moving on to number 65. It's going to be another Buffalo Bill. It's going to be Tre'Davious White, who last year, again, like Leonard Fournette, was at LSU, but this year as a rookie made a big-time impact for the Buffalo Bills. Finished with 69 tackles, 4 interceptions, 18 pass breakups, 1 touchdown, and a 92 Pro Football Focus grade, which is one of the highest that a rookie corner has ever gotten. He's an absolute baller, and he's a stud. He's a guy that kind of surprised a lot of people when he got drafted where he did by the Buffalo Bills, but I don't think any Bills fans are critiquing that selection anymore, as it looks like you got yourself a bona fide franchise corner, which are kind of tough. Corners do have a high bust rate, especially high-picked ones. You think about, Justin Gilbert most notably, or you got, D. Milner, and you got, I don't know, literally anyone you could suggest. Half a dozen corners that get picked in the first round don't amount to anything, but Trey White, have the rookie season he has, I think he's only going to build on that and should be in a much higher position come next year's rankings. Going to number 64 is going to be C.J. Mosley of the Baltimore Ravens. Last year did not make the list. This year, on the official list, he's like 98, 99. It's like one of the first players I could not believe. I think C.J. Mosley is a bona fide top 5 linebacker, maybe in a fringe top 3 on his day. And the fact that he just got utterly disrespected. His stats were insane last year. 132 tackles, 2 interceptions, 3 forced fumbles, and a touchdown. Made the Pro Bowl. He's the leader of that defense. The Ravens had an outstanding defense. He was the face of that defense. He has taken over the role from T-Sizzle to become the guy, the leader, the guy that everyone on that defensive side gets the juice from. I'm not going to come out and say what you think I'm going to say and say he's the next Ray Lewis. No one's going to be the next Ray Lewis, but he is filling in that shoes very, very nicely, I think, for the next foreseeable future. They have that anchor to the defense that, it's going to be just a terrorizer for years to come. He's good he's well-rounded, man. He's good against the run. He's good in coverage. He's a good athlete. 64, absolutely all day for C.J. Mosley. Go to 63. We have Zach Ertz of the Philadelphia Eagles. Last year did not make the list. This year, though, he's a beast. Third best tight end in football. Don't care. Don't even at me. 74 catches, 824 yards, 8 touchdowns last year. Made the Pro Bowl in the playoffs. 18 receptions, 192 yards, and a touchdown. And that one touchdown was, I don't know, maybe the game winner in the Super Bowl? Okay. Shout out to Zach Ertz. Third best tight. Like I said, when he had Delaney Walker as an honorable mention, tight ends didn't get a whole lot of respect here. Man, I got the most respect. But I think for a guy like Zach Ertz, he's only going to extend. I think Zach Ertz, when you compare him to Travis Kelce and Gronk, where is Zach Ertz better than those two guys? I think you debatably could say hands, but I don't think I can always say that. But definitely in route running. Zach Ertz is probably the best route running tight end in football. And that's why he's pretty much, there's a reason why I saw on Twitter, Jason Witten gave Zach Ertz his jersey. Jason Witten said, I don't give my jersey out to many people, but I think Zach Ertz, he does everything the right way, and he's going to be the future of the position, because Zach Ertz is going to be the new Jason Witten. I think Zach Ertz, as he gets older in age and loses some of that athletic ability, he's just going to be that guy that relies on really, really good route running ability to constantly just be like wide open on third downs. So, that's good. Moving to number 62. This is going to be Andrew Whitworth of the LA Rams. Did not make the list last year, but the Rams and the run game in particular was drastically better, and he was the one big change on that offensive line. Coming over from the Cincinnati Bengals, he's a guy that's constantly Pro Bowler, All-Pro in that conversation, but kind of, at his age, they said, all right, we're going to let you walk. And, their loss was a massive gain here for the LA Rams, as they got a guy that helped solidify that offensive line, helped protect Jared Goff, but ultimately helped Todd Gurley become the monster that he was. You're going to see Todd Gurley a lot later on, and I think Gurley is truly exceptional, and a big part of that was getting Andrew Whitworth. Now, what the Rams are doing with their salary cap, considering that Andrew Whitworth is his age, and the second best offensive lineman is probably Saffold, who's old, and I don't know that they still have John Sullivan as their center, but he's another guy that's 30 plus. I mean, the long-term health of this Rams roster is definitely not looking good. They're probably, after this upcoming window, it's going to be pretty tough. But while it works, having a guy like Andrew Whitworth coming in at number 62 on that offensive line, it's going to be really, really tough to get after Goff and stop Todd Gurley. And then finishing up before we take a little break here, at number 61 is going to be Ryan Kerrigan of the Washington Redskins. Last year did not make the list. This year, we got to show respect. He's a guy that he pretty much always seems to have a really, really strong game against the Philadelphia Eagles. Last season, Ryan Kerrigan, actually, just a sec, Whitworth, he was an All-Pro. That's another reason why he made the list. First team All-Pro. So talking about Ryan Kerrigan, however, he made the Pro Bowl, but he had 46 tackles, 13 sacks, 3 forced fumbles, and a touchdown. He's also a guy that can at times drop back into coverage and cover tight ends and running backs. He's a really, really good athlete, pretty underrated for teams outside of the NFC East. Not enough people talk about him. One thing that is surprising about this, and I kind of want Redskin fans to talk about this, how come he's not a captain? Like, how is he not your captain? He's been there forever. He doesn't have the captain thing. What is that? What's that about? Did he speak up about the name? Did he piss off the owner? Let's be honest, Redskins have one of the worst owners in the NFL. Something's going on there. But Ryan Kerrigan is the face of that defense. Josh Norman, eat a dick. It is Kerrigan's defense. And anytime you see the Redskins play the Philadelphia Eagles, I'm not a fan of seeing Ryan Kerrigan. Luckily, I think Lane Johnson got the better of him last year. But more often than not, Kerrigan seems to have his best games against the Philadelphia Eagles. And that's pretty damn frustrating. So that is the list for now. And like I said, we'll start doing that 20 at a time. So next time, we're going to go from 60 all the way down to 41. And we should be able to wrap this video up within the hour. So let's go back to this one. Go. Oh, we're going up against the Panthers. Any fullbacks? No fullbacks made this list. Any more Bucks? Maybe? Can't remember. Luke Kuechly gets a concussion again playing the Eagles. Yeah, it sucks, man. I like watching Kuechly out there. It sucks that he's having issues with that. Here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna play the moments on this game till halftime, and then I'll do this list again. Like I said, I want to finish this up ideally within the next half hour. So we gotta pick the speed up here a little bit. Landon Collins was like 80 something, 88 I think. fuck, didn't I play the moments? What's my favorite food to eat while watching football? Well, we have something where I live called a donair, and that's probably my favorite thing. But traditionally, I mean, wings are probably readily available, but I'd say ribs. Give me some good barbecue ribs. I'm a ribs man. Thanks for the donation, Nicholas. I appreciate it. Brady better be number 1. Okay, I hope you can't retract that. I actually can't remember. I can't remember who I had number 1. I want to make it a little. I made this list like 2 weeks ago, and I want, like, I'm pretty sure I know my top 10, but yeah, get wait and see. In what range do you have Jamal Adams? Jamal Adams did make the list, but I really like him. I think he's in that territory where we talked about Keyon ONeal being the future of the safety position. I think Jamal Adams needs to be right there with him. Not the same type of hitter, but it's like a cover guy. Like, he's, you know, if Keyon ONeal is going to be the next, like, Brian Dawkins, Troy Polamalu, you know, Cam Chancellor, big-time hitter, then I think Jamal Adams very much is in the mold of, like, the Ed Reed, like the cover guy that's going to be able to make a lot of plays. Yeah, fuck, we'll just play this whole game. Oh, come on, we can't lose to the Panthers. Is Joey Bosa on this? Yes, Joey Bosa is on the list. Let's go Callaway. Who do you think is the biggest trash talker in the NFL? Probably Norman. I would say probably Josh Norman. Keyon ONeal or Derwin James? Oh, Keyon ONeal. Absolutely Keyon ONeal. Oh, come on. Oh, there we go, Alshon. Let's go! Amos is not on. I mean, if we're going Pro Football Focus grades, he definitely would. I think he got like one of the highest in the league, but I can't strictly go on Pro Football Focus grades. Again, it's one of those things. He actually made my short list when I was listing. I went basically through all the teams and said, what players should I be in consideration? He was there, but compared to the other safeties that were on the list and on the cutting block, wasn't good enough. And I like Amos. I remember so many, like 2 drafts ago, so many Bears fans wanted them to draft a safety. I said, keep Amos. He's good. I'm like, no, we need better safeties. We need Jamal Adams, or we need, you know, whoever. Nah, you good. You good, though. All right. As you can tell, voice is starting to go to shit, which is awesome because we're not even halfway fucking done. But, stay with me. I'll tell you now, for the home stretch, I'm definitely cracking a beer. Any Bears on the list so far? Jordan Howard is on the list. The fuck? Give me this. Alright. We're going, where we at? We're starting at 60. Hey, Detroit Lion fans. Starting at 60. So, number 60. Glover Quinn of the Detroit Lions. Talking about a productive safety that does not get talked about enough. Glover Quinn last year did make the Pro Bowl. Did make All-Pro. 84 tackles, 3 interceptions, 4 forced fumbles, and a touchdown. There's always one safety that puts up these kind of numbers, has a decent reputation of being a high-level player, but just doesn't get recognized. A couple years ago, that was Ranchod Jones with the Miami Dolphins. And this year, it's Glover Quinn. I mean, he's a guy that constantly makes big plays. I played in an IDP fantasy league, and I remember I've drafted him a couple times because he just makes plays. He gets the tackles. He's very, very solid against the run. Really good in coverage. I don't know. Is he converted corner, though? I want to say he was. He played a little bit of corner earlier on. Could be wrong on that one. But, you know, Glover Quinn slept on by most. Not this guy. Moving on to number 59. It's going to be Zach Martin of the Dallas Cowboys. Last year we paid respect. We didn't have any, you know, direct hatred to the Cowboys, being biased as an Eagle fan. We put him at 24, which is absurdly high for an offensive lineman. But this year, pretty much everyone did regress on the Cowboys offensive line. Now, Zach Martin had an outstanding Pro Football Focus grade of 92, but he was second-team All-Pro, made the Pro Bowl. But when you're second-team All-Pro, if you're going to be an offensive lineman that gets ranked on my list, for the most part, we're going to go with the All-Pro guys. And, second-team All-Pro, based off his reputation of being probably the best guard in football. He's actually the second highest guard that made our list. But, still a good spot here for Zach Martin, who hopefully, with not for me, but if you're a Cowboy fan, can bounce back with the rest of the offensive line and the team next season. Go to number 58. This is going to be Yannick Ngakoue of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Last year did not make the list because he wasn't didn't get to see the field a whole lot. This year for the Jags, 30 tackles. He had 12 sacks, 6 forced fumbles, 1 touchdown, and a sack in the playoffs. Made the Pro Bowl. Now he's one of those guys you got to be cautious with how high you value him because, Calais Campbell going to the defensive line made everyone around him better. Now, it's one of those things, how much better is Yannick Ngakoue a product of the defense, or is he a big reason why the defense was good? Not sure yet. We're going to need to see that production kind of continue into next season. But it's pretty safe to say that Ngakoue is an emerging edge rushing superstar and probably can continue to put it all together in the coming years. Going to number 57 is going to be Levante David of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Did not make the list last year, but this year was really, really good for the Bucs yet again. Finished with 101 total tackles, 5 forced fumbles, 1 TD, a 94.2 Pro Football Focus grade. Great against the run, great in the pass. Again, not a lot of people talk about these Bucs linebackers. I think Quan Alexander's constantly just massive. He might be the most underrated linebacker, I think, in football. But Levante David is kind of in that mix. Just because the Bucs defense in general, the secondary, they don't get after the quarterback, pressure from the defensive edges in particular. You kind of just see, the defense sucks. Clearly, the linebackers aren't that good, but that's farthest thing from the truth. Levante David and Quan Alexander sign me up if I'm starting a team and looking for some linebackers. So Levante David got graded out well, didn't get slept off for Pro Football Focus, and I don't really like to put too much valuation in a Pro Football Focus. Say that 10 times fast. But this time we're gonna trust their judgment. We Levante David coming in at 57. Go to number 56. It's gonna be Tyreek Hill of the Kansas City Chiefs. Last year in the official top 100, he was like in the 30s. I think he was 36. Outrageous. It was actually a tweet that I got on NFL Network. I had it pinned to my Twitter page for quite some time. But last year on my list, I had him at 88. This year we got to go at 56. He's one of the most electrifying players in the NFL. Last season he had 75 catches, almost 1,200 total yards, 7 touchdowns, and a return touchdown. What he also adds in a return game is definitely added value that can kind of separate him with the logjam of these wide receivers that we're talking about in this range. Made the Pro Bowl last year. Now, with Patty Mahomes, he should be even better. He is pretty much the perfect wide receiver that you want if you have a quarterback that's built and has the play style of Patty Mahomes, of the big arm, deep threat, just slinging it. Tyreek Hill's got to get behind a lot of guys. I think, for fantasy football standpoint, maybe a little bit worrisome because I think he's going to be boomer bust, but there's going to be some weeks I guarantee Tyreek Hill is going to be dancing with a 200 receiving yard game. Going to number 55 is going to be Shady. LaShawn McCoy. Last year I had him at 26. Maybe this year is where my saltiness of him leading the Philadelphia Eagles kicks in. But, this year, compared to the other running backs, it's about where he should be. Shady had almost 1,600 yards of scrimmage and 8 touchdowns. Made the Pro Bowl, was pretty much everything on that Buffalo Bills offense. And, that's a team that they're a playoff caliber team, so you need to show some respect there. But like I said, more so, this is not a knock against Shady because I'm over it, but just more so when you look at the running backs. So we have ahead of them, they just have better stats. So, reputation aside, this is a good spot here for LaShawn McCoy at 55. He's still good, man. He can still get it done. Still one of the most elusive running backs with the ball in his hands, can catch the ball. It's going to be interesting to see, if Josh Allen emerges as the starter, how they're going to utilize him. But the team is probably going to be carried on the Shady's shoulders for the majority of next season for the Bills. Going to 54 is going to be Ezekiel Elliott, who last year I put at number 20. This year, he just missed too many games, kind of like Odell, where, I don't want to put 2 guys that miss too many games high on my list. But still, Zeke needs to get pretty high because in the games that he did play, in 10 of them, he still finished with 1,200 yards from scrimmage and 9 total touchdowns. He was dominant. And I think he had maybe 2 bad games and then 2 really big games that kind of compensated for that. And bad game for Ezekiel Elliott because that offensive line, everything goes through him. It's still like, he's dancing with 100 total yards anyways. But Zeke, he's really good, man. And I know it's like a lot of Philadelphia Eagle fans want to say, oh, it's the offensive line, oh, it's this, it's all that. But we saw when he was out, Dak Prescott was not, the rightful winner of the Offensive Rookie of the Year 2 years ago. It was Zeke. Everyone thought it was Zeke. And Zeke proved it last year when he missed a couple games. You know, it is the offensive line. In some part, offensive line is a big reason to a running back success. But I still kind of think for NFC East haters in particular, they don't give Ezekiel Elliott enough credit. He's still a really, really talented running back. But because he missed the games, we got to put him here at 54. Going to number 53 is going to be Marshon Lattimore of the New Orleans Saints. Last year did not make the list because he's a rookie. But he pretty much embodies the change in culture, if you will, of the New Orleans Saints. The New Orleans Saints have always had a pathetic defense. Last year, they were a lot better, and you know, he was the catalyst. You could say someone like Cameron Jordan, who's obviously a monster, has something to say about that, but he is the face. He is the face of this Saints that can actually play defense. Last year, Marshon Lattimore, as your defensive rookie of the year, which he got that, he had 51 tackles, 5 interceptions, 18 pass breakups, 1 touchdown, 4 pass breakups in the playoffs, made the Pro Bowl. He's going to be a guy that I'm pretty confident to say that he's going to be a staple of this list. And he's a monster, man. You had Marcus Williams had a good year. That draft class from the Saints last year is probably going to go down as one of like the best draft classes of the last decade, easy. But Marshon Lattimore has something to say about Alvin Kamara, about who is going to be the best rookie of that draft class, let alone the best rookie on the team. And I can say as a side note, as a Philadelphia Eagle fan, where during the draft process, it was pretty much almost a 1A, 1B between Marshon Lattimore and Sidney Jones for who the best corner was in the draft class. We're definitely hoping that we can get a little bit of that talent. And we were pretty much right on that valuation for Sidney Jones this year. Moving to number 52. It's going to be Eric Weddle of the Baltimore Ravens. Last year we had him at 57. This year 52. I don't even think he made the NFL Top 100, which is absurd when you look at his stats and his pedigree. He has a reputation. He has been playing at a very high level for quite some time. And last season he had 63 tackles, 6 interceptions, 2 forced fumbles, a touchdown, and he made the Pro Bowl. But still, not making the official NFL Top 100. I could be wrong. He might have made it, but I'm 90% sure he didn't. He's a beast, man. Eric Weddle is awesome. And he wasn't always a safety. Little known fact, he played running back at Utah, then converted to safety a little bit later on. More you know. The more you know. But Eric Weddle, not only does he have the best beard, but for a team in Baltimore that has struggled offensively, it might not be till they give the keys to Lamar Jackson that they're good on offense again. Always bring it on defense. C.J. Mosley, Eric Weddle are a massive reason to that. Going to number 51 is going to be Matt Stafford from the Detroit Lions. Last year, we gave him the greatest number of all time, 69. This year, have him up at 51. Again, I find that the official NFL Top 100 kind of has the reputation for quarterbacks to be super high, whereas my list, it is predominantly based upon, maybe not predominantly, but majority based upon what you did last year. And you look at Matt Stafford, 9-7, 4,400 yards, 29 touchdowns, 10 picks. That's pretty much, in that statistical category of Phillip Rivers, of Ben Roethlisberger. We're going to give Matt Stafford the edge because he has the intangible of the clutch straight, the comebacks. That's pretty much what he's been known for now. Before, he was the guy that threw the ball to Calvin Johnson. Now he's the guy that doesn't have Calvin Johnson, and his team can, buy. Sometimes him and his mistakes and bad play in the first half still can find a way to engineer drives and win in the fourth quarter, because that's such a really good intangible fact to have. That's why we value Matt Stafford a little bit higher than the other quarterbacks that are kind of in the same statistical category from last season. Going to number 50 is going to be Mark Ingram of the New Orleans Saints. Last year did not make the list. This year comes in at 50 as part of the best tandem running back combo in the league last season. 1,500 yards from scrimmage, 12 total touchdowns, made the Pro Bowl. Now, he did test for some illegal substances, and maybe that should have hindered his mark a little bit, but you know me, Lane Johnson supplements, you find in my book. We're going to show Mark Ingram here. Now, everyone knows how I feel about Mark Ingram. Mark Ingram won, well, I can't remember the year. We'll say the 2011, 2012 Heisman over Toby Gerhardt, when Toby Gerhardt was at Stanford. In no way, shape, or form should Mark Ingram won that Heisman over Toby Gerhardt. I've actually played the race card and said Toby Gerhardt didn't win it because he was a white running back. Because as a white running back, I identify with that. You know what I'm saying? I can't identify with the kneeling thing. People always ask me, what do you think about the kneeling? It's not me, man. If I was a black person, I'd feel free to give you my opinion. I'm not. It's their thing. I'm a white running back. I was a white running back. Toby Gerhardt was a white running back. He got absolutely robbed in that Heisman. I think it was a really close voting race. Mark Ingram, in no way, shape, or form, was better than Toby Gerhardt. We're gonna move on. We're gonna move on. I could talk about it for like another 20 minutes. Go number 49 is going to be Brandon Graham of the Philadelphia Eagles. Last year I had him at number 52. This year it comes in at number 49. He is a little bit of a pro football focused darling. Always grades those one of the top edge rushers. And again, kind of in that mold of Jerrell Casey, where like, yeah, people keep saying you're underrated every single year, but maybe it's kind of falls on you. But this last year he was utterly dominant. 33 tackles, 9.5 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, a touchdown in the playoffs, a sack, And again, I told you bring the valuation of the playoffs. He made the biggest play in the Super Bowl. Ultimately, you want to bring out the Philly special, the Philly. That's probably the best play, but the biggest play was the sacked fumble on Tom Brady. You made the biggest play, the most impactful play of the entire season. You know, you want to say, oh, the Stephon Diggs catch was a little bit better. Oh, did they go to the Super Bowl? Oh, no, they got bodied the next week. Not that important. They had that big play to win nothing. You won a loss. Brandon Graham had the big play. He got the Super Bowl, the first Super Bowl for the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, I definitely could say, someone could say some equal bias here. Okay. But the fact that he's probably going to be higher than this ranking on the NFL Top 100. He hasn't shown up yet. There's no chance in hell he's not going to make that list. 49 is a good spot. Go number 48 is going to be David DeCastro of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Last year did not make the list. This year, got a 90 grade from Pro Football Focus. Gave up 0 sacks on the entire year. Was first team All-Pro at offensive guard. Now, is he the final? 1, 2. We have 2 more offensive linemen, so he's the third offensive lineman on this list. He's the best guard. Grail, the best guard. Obviously, he's the road grader for Le'Veon Bell. And all those running backs, especially you have a good offensive line for the way that Le'Veon Bell has that patient running style. If you don't have a good offensive line, you probably got to suck ass. So shout out to David DeCastro for being first team All-Pro and one of the best offensive lines in football. Going number 47, it's gonna be Michael Thomas, the wide receiver of the New Orleans Saints. Last year did not make the list. This year, really good. Grab a swig of water here. Michael Thomas is an absolute emerging superstar at the wide receiver spot. 104 catches last year, 1,200 yards, 5 touchdowns. Made the Pro Bowl in the playoffs, 15 catches, 216 yards, 2 TDs. So I think when you're looking at like receivers in the playoffs, it probably, let me see here, was, Michael Thomas and Alshon Jeffrey were like the 2 most productive wide receivers, I think. So we're showing out some, when you throw the ball as much as Drew Brees and the Saints historically have, you need to have good wide receivers. And, for the longest time, they just had, what was his name? Marquise Colston. And he has his limitations. Now you actually got a superstar in Michael Thomas. I think he's only going to get better, and 47 is only the beginning. I think next year you'll find himself probably 10 spots higher, something like that. Especially with Mark Ingram missing some time, they're probably going to throw the ball a little bit more and put the game on Drew Brees' shoulders for those 4 games, even though they still have Alvin Kamara. So Michael Thomas, I think his stat line has a chance to be even higher. He's awesome, man. He's really, really good. And he's actually a guy I was wrong on. I thought he was overrated coming out of Ohio State, and I'll gladly eat the L. He's a very exciting player. He's helped me win a couple fantasy football games to boot. Okay. Going to 46. It's going to be Marcus Peters of the Kansas City Chiefs, now of the LA Rams. Last year I had him at number 14 on my list. This year at 46. A little bit of a down year, but still, since he's come to the league, there's been no bigger ball-hawking corner in football. Last year, he had 46 tackles, 5 interceptions, 9 pass breakups, and actually had 3 forced fumbles. He was laying the lumber. Now, there are some big-time criticisms of how he behaved in the game against the Jets, where he threw the ref's flag in the stands. And he is a hothead, and I think going to the Rams was a smart decision, but then they brought in Akeem Talib, who's another hothead, probably not going to be the best influence there. But I'm a Marcus Peters fan. I like what he brings to the game. I've made it clear throughout all my videos that I am a big fan of Marcus Peters. If I was making a team right now, he'd probably be maybe my first corner off the board if I was starting there in the secondary. But, last year, a little bit of a down year from him. And when a down year for Marcus Peters is only 5 picks, usually has a little bit more pass breakups and stuff, a little bit more involved. You're in pretty good company, and that was an outstanding trade from the LA Rams. One of the most fleeced trades that we've seen in the league in quite some time. Go number 45 is going to be Melvin Gordon of the LA Chargers. Last year we had him at 74. This year making the big-time jump up to 45. Melvin Gordon last season had 1,600 yards from scrimmage and 12 total touchdowns, and has really emerged himself as a complete back. When he was with Nebraskan, because I can't remember if it's Nebraska or Wisconsin because I always get them mixed up. I mean, he broke like the single-yard rushing record a week, and then it got beat a couple weeks later by Samaje Perine. But, he pretty much was a between-the-tackles runner. You didn't really know how much of a receiving threat he was going to be. But now he's a guy that can catch, upwards of 50 balls a season. I think he's going to be, that's the evolution of the running backs nowadays. If you want to be a truly elite running back, you had to be able to play all 4 downs if need be, but especially all 3 downs, and be able to catch the ball. I think that's an underrated aspect of Melvin Gordon's game that really does make him a complete running back, and that's why we put him here at 45. Go number 44, it's going to be Travis Kelce of the Kansas City Chiefs. Last year we had him at number 25 because Gronk was hurt and he had the best tight end stats. This year, Gronk was healthy. He had the second best tight end stats. 44, he is almost one of those guys that is a glorified wide receiver, but he has absolutely the body and the build of a tight end. He's a dickhead. He's an absolute dickhead, but he's really, really good. Last season, he had 83 catches for 1,038 yards, 8 touchdowns, made the Pro Bowl, was second-team All-Pro, had 4 catches, 66 yards, and a touchdown in the playoffs. Plus, Andy Reid finds some gimmicky plays. They did some shovel passes, some runs, and stuff like that. You know, the tight end run, like the most overpowered play for the Madden professional players, like 2 years ago. I remember I saw that shit, and I was like, Madden professional players are the lamest fucking people on earth. They just run the same playbook. Oh, whatever. We're not going to go into that one. I can go on a bunch of tangents here today. We're trying to keep it concise and focus on the players. But yeah, Travis Kelce for my money. Even though I do like Zach Ertz, it's pretty easy to say that the tight end hierarchy is Gronk, Travis Kelce, Zach Ertz. So we have Kelce reflects that at number 44. Go to number 43. It's going to be David Bakhtiari, the offensive tackle from the New York Giants. Rewind that. The offensive tackle for the Green Bay Packers. Last year, see, I saw the G and thought Giants. Last year did not make the list. This year, absolutely makes the list. Debatably was the best tackle. Was second-team All-Pro. Was the #1 pass blocker from Pro Football Focus. Now, he does have a very high grade, but he did miss some time, which kind of slightly affects your grade. But because we didn't really have that effect, Jason Peters, who was like 96, something like that, too much. We can't hold that too much into Bakhtiari. And the fact that when Aaron Rodgers went down, you had to protect for inferior quarterback play. He never weakened. And I think when you talk about left tackles, I think he's probably the best left tackle in football now. I mean, there's no more disparity. Before, when I was first getting into football, there was a big discrepancy between a left tackle and a right tackle. Now, you're pretty much tackle. But if we're grading guys that purely play on the left side, it's probably Bakhtiari, Trent Williams, Tyron Smith, Jason Peters. Like those are your 4. And Bakhtiari has the youth on his side. He probably is slightly leading the pile this year, and that's why we have him at 43. Going to 42, we have Cam Hayward of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Last year did not make the list. This year was an absolute monster. First team All-Pro, 45 tackles, 12 sacks, 2 forced fumbles from a 3-4 end. Now I just know how Philadelphia ran that 3-4 here under Chip Kelly. It's tough for 3-4 ends to get really big-time recognition. Anytime a 3-4 end would get double-digit sacks, you kind of almost value that a little bit more than a 4-3 edge rusher because, different gaps and stuff like that. And you have different responsibilities because, you have to definitely be able to stop the run as well. You can't be just a one-dimensional pass rusher, like your Danielle Hunters and your Vic Beasleys of the world. Cam Hayward is a do-it-all guy. And maybe 42 is actually a little high. I was kind of debating where to have him. Could have had him a couple spots higher. But I think the fact that he did make the list last year and he's trending in the upward direction, 42 was a safe spot to put him here this season. Go to number 41. It's going to be a big-time one-year wonder, but we still got to give him the value. And that is Kevin Byard from the Tennessee Titans. Last year did not make it. This year was outstanding. First team All-Pro, 87 tackles, 8 interceptions, 16 pass breakups, did make the Pro Bowl. Like I said, I don't want to overvalue one-year success too much. It's one-year success / just rookies that had big years. But you can't ignore 8 interceptions, 16 pass breakups. I remember him and Deion Sanders had this big beef on Twitter because Deion Sanders said, "Who is this guy?" And he's just trying to chirp them and stuff like that. But Byard is a beast, man. And I will say the one thing, those interceptions did tend to come in chunks. I remember I had him in my IDP fantasy league. It wasn't like he had like 8 games with 1 pick. He'd have games that had 3 interceptions, some games that had 2 interceptions. But still, man, if he can keep it up, we got to give him the benefit of the doubt that he is going to be the next big thing at the safety spot because everything he did last year kind of is trending in that direction. So I think 41 is a good spot for him to be. All right, we're going to take a little bit of a break, and then we're going to go from 40 all the way to 21. So we're pretty much almost at the end. But again, in these little breaks, so I can continue to jug some beverages here. I think after this next junk, we're going to get some beer going. And we're going to actually, you know what? Fuck that. I'm doing it now. We'll pop this game up. We're going to break a couple of those C4 Wisers out. This is really going to take off in the home stretch. Oh, yeah. That's what we need. Phew. Me. Oh, my voice is killing me. Absolutely take over in the red zone. Akeem Hicks was almost an honorable mention. He did not make the list. I respect him too because he played up here in Canada. Went to the University of Regina. Talking Cam versus Stafford. Give me Matt Stafford over Cam Newton. They're close. I'd have them in the same echelon of quarterbacks. Oh, Aguilar with the drop. Come on. No Cardinals. We still got a ways to go, bud. There's gonna be. I think there's definitely a Cardinal, maybe a couple, but the Cardinals haven't got there yet. Oh, that's a bad pass. Luckily, Carson Wentz has a fucking cannon. Oh my god. Oh, I know about this. Stafford would have fell on that fumble in the Super Bowl. You know, the one that Cam Newton just got scared away from? That's probably why I'd take Stafford over Cam Newton. People don't forget. For next year, Stidham lock. Oh, Herbert for sure. I'm a huge Justin Herbert fan. Next year, I want the. If I was a team that doesn't have a quarterback, I want that #1 pick next year. Herbert's a beast. Oh, right there, baby. Oh, Alshon's so nasty. Yeah, for the Bears, like I said at the top, I made a list. I went through every single team, and I was like, what players would I, without looking into it, like I ended up with like 150 players. No, less than that, maybe 130. Amos and Hicks were like, you know, late cuts to make the top 100. I respect them though. And I've said countless times on Twitter, man, Bears are my sleeper team next year. Sucks that their division's so tough, but when they played the Eagles. Even though the Eagles kind of crushed the Bears, you could see that the Bears are, you know, a John Fox firing away from being like a really good team. Plus, you got my boy Trey Burton now. Like, I'm pulling for the Bears next year. Like, I think I want the. I always kind of like the Vikings, even though after how they behaved in the playoffs and stuff last year, I kind of don't like the Vikings much. But I'm pulling for the Bears next year to win the North. All right, we won that game. Very nice. Before I know you're a Florida fan, Taven Bryan, something. Taven Bryan is relentless. That's pretty much, he's like a constant work rate guy. He's really, really good. How they're going to use him, I think, as like an edge rotational guy to come in as like a change of pace between Malik Jackson, and Calais Campbell. But very high upside. Probably not a finished product yet, but very high upside. All right, let's go back to the list. We are, I forget what number I'm. We're on number 40. Okay. Let me just swig a beer here. Shout out to MGD. We're drinking MGDs tonight. All right. Mind my burping. There might be some burping because that's what happens when you drink beer. Going to number 40 on the list. It's going to be AJ Green of the Cincinnati Bengals. I think he's the only Oh, that's a lie, but one of 2 Bengals to make the list. 43 last year. This year at 40. You know, he's so damn. He's like one of those guys, regardless of the quarterback play. Quarterback play was up and down. The offense in general was up and down for the Bengals. But again, a lot of it plays reputation. A lot of it plays to, like, this guy here, if he didn't get hurt, he's got 1,000 yards every year in his career. And other times, sometimes he's just straight up uncoverable. Last season, AJ Green, 75 catches, 1,100 yards, 8 touchdowns. So kind of similar stat line to what Marvin Jones had, but at the end of the day, let's be honest, you're taking A.J. Green over Marvin Jones. You have A.J. Green's reputation, which puts him a couple spots higher up on this list. So, I mean, debatably, 40 could be a little high for A.J. Green, but I respect what he brings to the table, and this is, like I said, personal preference when you get into this middle logjam where all his players are pretty much on the same level. Going number 39, it's going to be Telvin Smith, the linebacker for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Last year did not make the list. This year, 39. Very good, very high. That's a lot of improvement. That's at least, 61 spots higher than he was last year. But Telvin Smith, one of those guys, those undersized linebackers that just find a way to make plays. I don't even know if he's 230 pounds. He's like 220 pounds. He's smaller than some starting safeties, but boy, is he productive. 102 tackles last year, 3 interceptions, 1 touchdown, was second-team All-Pro, made the Pro Bowl in the playoffs. 31 tackles, 1 forced fumble, 1 touchdown, was all over the place. Now he's going to need to step up even more, especially in a leadership standpoint, to pick up where Paul Posluszny, the man with the most gigantic neck in the NFL, left off. But I think the Jags are going to be in good hands here with Telvin Smith. And if Myles Jack can get developed and they can find another linebacker, hey, Michael Kendricks is still on the board. That linebacking core is really good. But don't get it twisted. Telvin Smith is very, very good. Going number 38 is going to be Jason Kelce of the Philadelphia Eagles. Last year did not make the list. This year, 38. Yes, the greatest post-game, post-Super Bowl parade speech, post-any parade speech of all time. But here's why he gets it. He had a 93 Pro Football Focus grade, and where we said we're gonna, pay some respect to offensive line, he had the highest offensive line grade out of any offensive lineman. That's higher than Zach Martin, any of the all-play tackles and stuff like that. Because he's a center. Like, if he wasn't a center, if he played tackle or guard and put up that kind of score, he'd probably be in the 20s. But because he is a center, how far do you want to put centers? He's a very good center. But I think 38 is about the upper echelon that I could go with Kelce. But the fact that he was unbelievable last year, and so many Philadelphia Eagle fans wanted them to cut him. They said, "Oh, he's pretty much a fullback. He's too small. He pretty much said everything that needed to be said in his Super Bowl speech." But Kelce, with that 93 Pro Football Focus grade, first team All-Pro, the best center, recognized the best center in football, because he had the best Pro Football Focus, which is where I kind of lean on a little bit for offensive linemen, and then everyone else recognized him as the best center. He's coming at 38. No bias involved. Going to number 37 is going to be Khalil Mack for the Oakland Raiders. Last year I had him at number 6, one of my favorite players in the NFL, but he did have a dip in stats. Hopefully John Gruden can get the best of him. I know he'll be moving to defensive end, which I think is where he's best suited, but last year he still finds a way to get on the list at number 37. He had 78 tackles, 10.5 sacks, and made the Pro Bowl. So those numbers aren't really, super flashy by any means, but again, you can't get it twisted. He's still a superstar, still one of the faces of defensive players in the NFL. And yeah, everyone on the Raiders kind of had a disappointing season. Everyone kind of failed to live up to expectations, but only so much. I believe that going from 6 to 37 is an appropriate drop for Khalil Mack based off of last season. Going to number 36 is going to be Geno Atkins of the Cincinnati Bengals. Last year had him at 35. This year, 1 point drop at 36. But a guy that constantly gets underrated, especially in the official top 100. He is incredible. I can say that there's only 2 defensive linemen, I think, like straight up D linemen that are higher than him. I'm sure most of you can probably guess. I guess guys that are classified as like a tackle, that could be higher than him. But Geno Atkins is unbelievable, man. 46 tackles, 9 sacks, made the Pro Bowl last year. He's pretty much the only D tackle in this league, because I guess you classify Aaron Donald as more of a DN now in that 3-4. Pretty much the only D tackle that always is flirting with 10 sacks every single year, consistently. So the reputation plays a big part in where Geno Atkins is ranking. Man, he's again, very, very underrated. Like, I guarantee there's probably people in this stream right now that don't know who he is. And you're like, he's that damn good. Maybe it's because the Bengals also haven't been particularly strong the last couple years. All right, moving on to number 35. It's going to be Kareem Hunt, the running back for the Kansas City Chiefs. Last year did not make the list because he's a rookie. But, again, we don't want to overvalue one-year wonders / rookies. But Kareem Hunt, anytime you're a straight-up rookie and you lead the league in rushing yards, you got to get some respect. Last year, the rookie that led the league in rushing yards got number 20. Kareem Hunt's getting 35. I feel like that's a fair spot because he didn't win the award, even though maybe he should have. But he finished with almost 1,800 yards from scrimmage, 11 touchdowns. Made the Pro Bowl. In the playoffs, he had 47 yards and a TD as well. One of those things where it was just very surprising how Andy Reid decided to handle Kareem Hunt down the stretch. It feels like in the second half, as someone that owned Kareem Hunt in fantasy football, they just stopped giving him the ball. I don't know why. And as a fantasy football owner that's thinking about keeping him in my Keepers League, A little bit worried that when Spencer Ware gets back into the mix, he's going to eat into his carries, and Andy Reid's going to overthink it and not make Kareem Hunt the premier feature back of that offense. He should be. He probably will be, but there's a chance Andy Reid is going to overthink it and absolutely butcher it. But either way, Kareem Hunt's future is incredibly bright, bearing Andy Reid just sabotaging it. 35 is a good spot for him. Goal number 34. It's going to be Drew Brees of the New Orleans Saints. Last year I had him at 22. This year at 34, just because, you know, he is reputation-based. He's, you know, if you're rating the quarterbacks, he's definitely top 5, I would say, in the league. But his stats last year were a down year because they just ran the ball so efficiently. He didn't have to throw the ball a whole bunch. So ultimately, when you know, a lot of this comes down to your stats, I think based upon Drew Brees' stats, which weren't drastically different from some of the older quarterbacks we've talked about, 34 is a good spot for him to come in at. Last year, 11-5 as a starter, 4,300 passing yards, 23 TDs to 8 picks. Made the Pro Bowl in the playoffs, 670 passing yards, 5 touchdowns, 3 picks. You know, he's Drew Brees, man. He's one of those guys. I was an Eagle fan. The one team I did not want to see in the playoffs was Drew Brees and them Saints. The one team I don't want to see next year is Drew Brees and those Saints. Because, you know, at any given time, he can remind you, oh, you know, the Saints are a running team now. He's just going to go, bang, flick the switch. I'm going to drop 500 yards on your ass. So, full respect to Drew Brees. Just statistically, a little bit of a down year. Not really any fault of him, just because that's how the offense went. So, still showing some respect. Put him here at 34. Go number 33. It's Earl Thomas of the Seattle Seahawks. Last year we had him at 66. This year he's coming in at 33. He finished the season with 88 tackles, 2 interceptions, 6 pass breakups, 1 touchdown, and was second-team All-Pro. Kind of surprised he got the All-Pro, second-team All-Pro nod, because those stats weren't, you know, eye-popping by any means. But the fact that, let's be honest, the Legion of Boom is kind of falling apart. But when healthy, Earl Thomas, is there a better safety in football from a well-rounded standpoint? He's probably one of the best cover safeties. And he also can lay the lumber. He also has a couple big highlight hits on his highlight reel. And, you know, we can show respect here to Earl Thomas, who, you know, like I said, personally, you look at the box score, you look at the final season stats, you look at where the Seahawks finished. Not his strongest year, but the fact that he still has a reputation, still got that second-team All-Pro nods. Even though  33, I felt like that's a fair spot to put him. Not necessarily where exactly I would have him. I'd probably have him in the 40s somewhere. But 33, it works out well. So there you go, Seahawks fans. You got a little bit of a bump there. Go number 32 is going to be Adam Thielen of the Minnesota Vikings. Last year did not make the list. This year, there you go. You see it. The proof is in the pudding. 91 catches, almost 1,300 yards, and 4 touchdowns. Was second-team All-Pro. I think after Antonio Brown, he might be the best pure route runner in football. His route running is unbelievable. I can't remember what corner he murked. It might have been Xavier Rhodes. No. Who was it? Josh Norman, maybe? Whoever the Vikings played. Did the Vikings play in London last year? I think that's the game I watched. Either way. Like, he was going up against a premier corner. I can't remember which one it was. It was one of those two. It was either Rhodes. Rhodes is on his own fucking team. That's the dumbest thing I've ever said. It was Josh Norman, I think, right? He broke his ankles so bad. Like, he was getting owned. Absolutely owned. And I was just like, man, this guy's route running is... Because athletically, I mean, he's not an absolute burner. Doesn't have, like, great agility or anything like that. But his route running is so goddamn crisp. He's wide open in every single play. And I think he's constantly slept on. I don't know where he made the official top 100. But, he definitely did make it, right? I'm pretty sure he did. But anyway, 32, I have no problem at all. Second-team All-Pro. Better than Stephon. Stephon Diggs didn't make the list. Stephon Diggs, I'm a fan of Stephon Diggs. He was my sleeper one year. I called him that he's going to be an absolute star. I refer to that all the time. But he didn't break 1,000 yards, and he just more so has the big play. Throughout the season, Thielen was the better dude. I had Diggs on my fantasy football team. I took him over Thielen. Regret it the entire season long. Thielen's really good. He's probably only getting better with Kirk Cousins. Goal number 31. Is going to be the highest offensive lineman on the list. Don't even at me. He's the best tackle in football. His name is Lane Johnson. He comes in at 31. Last year didn't make the list. Here's why. I can justify it a little bit more because I'm an Eagle fan. He was first-team All-Pro. He gave up 0 sacks in the playoffs. Made the Pro Bowl. Shut out. I think he only gave up 1 sack the entire season. He shut down Von Miller. He shut down Khalil Mack. He shut down Joey Bosa. He shut down DeMarcus Lawrence. He shut down Ryan Kerrigan, who historically has got the better of Lane Johnson. He shut down more premier tackles, or more premier defensive ends than any tackle in football last season, and gave up 0 sacks in the playoffs on the way to the Super Bowl. He is easily, no contest for me, the best tackle in football. No Eagle bias. If I was even a neutral fan, you look at what he did last season, he's the best tackle. He is the best tackle in football. He has to defend it this year. It's not going to be handed to him. But, just go watch the meme of what happened when he had to go up against Von Miller. Von Miller, the last year's NFL official top 100, number 2 player. Watch what happened when he went up against Lane Johnson. Go to number 30. It's going to be the first Arizona Cardinal on the list, and that is Larry Fitzgerald. Last year I had him at 45. This year he's coming in at 30. Old man Larry can get it done regardless of what's going on at quarterback. Last year he finished with 109 catches, almost 1,200 yards, 6 total touchdowns, made the Pro Bowl. He's getting a little bit up there in age, pretty much plays in the slot now, but no one more sure-handed than Larry Fitzgerald. Doesn't drop the ball, constantly can convert third downs, move the chains. He's Larry Legend. In my opinion, he's the best wide receiver I've been able to see since I've been watching football in the playoffs. Unfortunately, the Cardinals probably could be going to the playoffs, but I kind of hope he just keeps playing. I kind of hope he keeps playing as we see the development of Josh Rosen. I hope Larry still has another 2-3 years in him so we can see that connection build between him and Josh Rosen. But full respect to Larry Fitzgerald. Luckily, he was the Philadelphia Eagle killer. Last year didn't do a whole lot, which is good to get that monkey off her back. But still, anytime Philly would end up playing the Cardinals until he retires, there's a given chance that he's going to go off for like 200 yards and 3 touchdowns. So full respect to Larry Legend as he comes in at number 30. Go number 29 is going to be Alvin Kamara of the New Orleans Saints, the Offensive Rookie of the Year. Obviously, didn't make the list last year because he's rookie. But last year he had 1,500 yards from scrimmage, 13 total touchdowns, was second-team All-Pro in the playoffs. He had almost 150 yards from scrimmage and 2 total touchdowns. Now we're going to see what he looks like without the smash and dash combination of Mark Ingram for the first 4 games of next season. But long-term, I think Kamara is he's perfect. He has the size. He's almost 220 pounds, which is, like the fringe size that you want to see for a 3-down starter. He has elite receiving ability. He has elite speed. He has good vision. So we're going to see probably for the first 4 games what the future is going to look like, because I would assume that Mark Ingram was not going to get re-signed after this next season. But everything Kamara did, especially with Drew Brees at the helm, especially with a guy like Sean Payton that can find a way just to, utilize all of his strengths. I mean, he was the easiest pick I made in my fantasy draft last year. You always want to draft your fantasy draft rookies, running backs. You always want to go running backs. I was like, a receiving guy in a Sean Payton offense? Sure, I'll draft him in the last round of my draft. And he pretty much helped me win my league. So shout out to Alvin Kamara, who very well could better this spot and be higher next season. Going to number 28 is going to be Joey Bosa of the LA Chargers. Last year we had him at 77. This year at 28. He's absolutely one of the most premier edge rushers in the National Football League. 70 tackles, 12.5 sacks, 4 forced fumbles, and made the Pro Bowl. I actually think he kind of got snubbed for the All-Pro. I thought worst he would at least get second-team All-Pro. But he's pretty much unblockable. He became a meme for us in Madden 17 because in Madden 17, you could not stop him. He was always going to get a bunch of sacks, be it in the sim, be it when you play against him. Endless motor. He is pretty much the prototypical perfect edge rusher. Now he has a brother right now at Ohio State that could very well be a top 5 pick. Should probably be a top 5 pick next year. You have to deal with that. But Joey Bosa is utterly incredible. And again, when we talked about Melvin Ingram, underrated, man. This Chargers defense does not get enough respect. And on their day, even my Philadelphia Eagles struggled to protect Carson Wentz, trying to contain Joey Bosa and Melvin Ingram. Now, we had Lane Johnson, which is helpful, but not every team has the offensive line the Philadelphia Eagles have. Most teams do not. So the Chargers are going to absolutely wreak havoc next year, and I think Joey Bosa is a guy that's going to probably be a couple spots higher, and I can see him actually challenging for the sack record next season if he can stay healthy, and most of his teammates can stay healthy as well. Go number 27, it is going to be Aaron Rodgers of the Green Bay Packers. Last year we had him at number 2. He is the most talented quarterback in the NFL, but he actually only played, how many games did he play last year? Like 7 games. Again, we show respect to Odell. We show respect to Zeke, who, I mean, maybe less so to Zeke because his suspension was his own fault. But Aaron Rodgers got hurt, so that's why there's a big-time drop because he didn't play a full season. But in his games, he went 4-3, 1,600 yards, 16 TDs to 6 picks. Now, the interceptions were kind of high for Aaron Rodgers. If he would have, if you're just doing simple math, he would have finished with roughly 32 touchdowns, 12 picks, which is kind of high for Aaron Rodgers. But still, it's Aaron Rodgers, 27, no arguments. Moving on. Missed some season. Go to number 26. Very surprising, but I saw him play a whole lot. Here's my fantasy defensive line in IDP Fantasy. DeMarcus Lawrence for the Dallas Cowboys coming in at 26. Who says I was going to be strictly biased to the Eagles? Last year didn't make it. We have a Cowboy at 26. Last year, 58 tackles, 14.5 sacks, 4 forced fumbles, second-team All-Pro. He was unblockable, man. More often than not, wreaking havoc. Another thing, I found like he got sacks at big-time moments. It's not like he was rounding up his sacks against weak teams or rounding up his sacks and racking them up late in injury time or when the garbage time or whatever you want to call it. He was making sacks in big-time plays, big-time third downs in clutch moments. I know that obviously things did not go perfectly well for the Dallas Cowboys, but I need to show respect here to Tank Lawrence. Watching him from the Eagles, obviously Lane Johnson bottled him up, but Lane Johnson bottled everybody up. But a couple other Dallas, because for some reason, oh my god, for some reason, Dallas had like 9 primetime games last year. More often than not, DeMarcus Lawrence was going off and was the best player on the field, offense or defense. So there you go, Cowboy fans. You get some respect here. Don't make me regret it by putting DeMarcus at 26. Going to number 25 is going to be Everson Griffen of the Minnesota Vikings. Last year coming at 94. This year, much higher than that. Last season, 45 tackles, 13 sacks, 3 forced fumbles, was second team All-Pro. And had 1 sack in the playoffs. So statistically, 1 sack less, or a sack and a half less than DeMarcus Lawrence. But again, the reputation where Marcus Lawrence only had 1 big year. Everson Griffin been doing his thing for quite some time. Made the playoffs. Yeah, I mean, sure. Everson Griffin, did he get bodied by Big V? Yeah, the Eagles' 3rd string tackle. Yes. But you can't let that one bad game where everyone on the Vikings sucked eliminate what was a very, very good season for Everson Griffin. And, second team All-Pro, got recognized by his peers. There you go, 25. I think 25, top 25 player for Everson Griffin. There's not going to be too many the saltiest fan base in the offseason, Minnesota Vikings. I think you guys should be satisfied with Everson Griffin being at 25. All right, going to 24 is going to be A.J. Boye from the Jacksonville Jaguars. Very, very terrifying secondary, terrifying in Madden. I hate playing the Jaguars. And teams in real life. Ask Ben Roethlisberger. Hate playing the Jacksonville Jaguars. Last year did not make it. He was like an honorable mention last year from the Houston Texans. Then he went to free agency. That's Jags do. Jags pretty much just signed every big-name free agent they can. A.J. Boye had 56 tackles, 6 picks, 18 pass breakups, and was second-team All-Pro last year. When that number there alone does not make you the best corner on your team, oh boy. Oh boy! But I think this is a good spot for A.J. Boye at 24. I don't know if he already appeared on the NFL rankings. I think he did. I think he would have been in the 40s. Again, I could be wrong. But yeah, I'm confident here putting him at 24. Going number 23 is going to be Keenan Allen of the L.A. Chargers. Last year did not make the list. This year, now fully healthy. Your Comeback Player of the Year award recipient. 102 catches, almost 1,400 yards, and 6 touchdowns as he made the Pro Bowl. Do it all, man. He could do it all. He was a beast when he was coming out of college out of Cal, and he's a beast now. I remember he slipped in the draft because he did not test well at the Combine. I was still really surprised. I didn't really watch a whole lot of Cal, but I remember he's really good in NCAA, and I did that, simple math. Oh, if you're good in NCAA, you're probably going to be pretty good in real life. And it actually worked out for Keenan. It doesn't always happen as the case, but Keenan Allen, when healthy, which is, knock on wood, he can stay healthy again, because I will be targeting him in my fantasy football league. He's really good. He got good hands, underrated athletic ability, good route running. Constantly, he now with Antonio Gates moving on, and especially with Hunter Henry getting hurt, he is going to be the safety net for Phillip Rivers this upcoming season. And if the Chargers can make a legitimate playoff run, Keenan Allen is going to have to do his share. Going to number 22, it is Von Miller of the Denver Broncos. Last year in real life, the NFL Top 100 had him at 2, which was a fucking joke. He didn't even win Defensive Player of the Year, and he was the 2nd best player in the league. So I put him at 9, which a lot of people agreed with. That was fair. This year, 22. Kind of like Khalil Mack. Just didn't have a massive year statistically speaking, especially by his own standards. Von Miller had 57 tackles, 10 sacks, 2nd team All-Pro. Yeah, Denver Broncos struggled. And more often than not, it kind of came on the defense. The defense didn't really have any significant injuries, I don't think. I could be speaking out of turn, but I don't think they did. They just, suffered from the offense not being very good, and they're tired a lot of times. But still, they're big-time players. Von Miller, Aqib Talib, Chris Harris. None of those guys had exceptional seasons. None of those guys rose to the occasion. They all just had decent years for exceptional, talented players. So I think, 22 is a good spot. Von Miller definitely needs to fall a little bit. We're not going to give him the reputation that, a lot of his peers give him. And, I'm just some guy on YouTube. So, you definitely probably should trust his peers a little bit. But I think 22 is a good spot for Von Miller based upon what he was able to do with the Denver Broncos last season. Going to number 21, Fletcher Cox of the Philadelphia Eagles. Last year we had him at 33. This year we have him at 21. He's pretty much unblockable for the most part. Last year for Philadelphia, 26 tackles, 5.5 sacks, 1 touchdown, was 2nd team All-Pro, had a sack in the playoffs. And when you hear Tom Brady and Bill Belichick before the playoffs, during that whole Super Bowl media week, they said Fletcher Cox was the most intimidating player. He's the guy you got to stop. He was the guy they're most worried about on the Philadelphia Eagles. When Brady and Belichick are saying that, you know that he's an absolute beast. Now, all Philadelphia Eagle fans know that he's a bona fide player. Everyone, Good Morning Football, Kyle Brandt said he is top 20. I couldn't go that far, but he's one of those guys, man, where it falls in that little awkward, his stats aren't mind-blowing to have him this high. But this is more so first-hand experience, and plus most of his peers. NFL Network, I think I had him at 69. I think it was a joke because Cox, 69. He's the best pure defensive tackle. Considering that Aaron Donald is a defensive end, he can move around. For a guy that just straight up plays defensive tackle, the $100 million man, Fletcher Cox, is the best in football. No Eagle bias aside. He's better than Ndamukong Suh. I would say, in all honesty, if you're looking at pure D tackles, I kind of have Fletcher Cox 1A, maybe Geno Atkins 1B. That's probably the way that I would go right now. So, but Fletcher Cox 21 all day long. I'll defend that to my grave. Some people, it's maybe a little, oh, he's too high for Fletcher Cox. Watch the Eagles play, man. Just watch the Eagles play. He is I can say this with all confidence. Philadelphia Eagles, everyone says, oh my God, the Eagles have the best defensive line. They have all these depth. Pretty much every sack almost comes because Fletcher Cox almost got there or made it so the other guy could get there. If you could get kind of in hockey where you got assists, if you got half a sack for an assist, Fletcher Cox would probably finish the year with 20-some sacks every single season. He is that damn good. I'm done defending it. We're going to keep going. We're going to keep rocking and rolling here. Going to number 20. It's going to be Cameron Jordan of the New Orleans Saints. Last year did not make it. This year was incredible. And like I said, kind of like Marcel Lattimore, where Marcel Lattimore is more the face of the resurgence of the Saints. Cam Jordan has been the really good player that's been doing it for quite some time. Last season, Cam Jordan finished the year with 62 tackles, 13 sacks, 11 pass breakups. So there you go. Excuse me, you could drop him back a little bit. First team All-Pro, made the Pro Bowl, had a sack in the playoffs. He's constantly slept on. How you gonna sleep on Cam Jordan, man? How you gonna sleep on Cam Jordan? He's really good. You can't sleep on him. Wake up. Get off the NyQuil. Take some caffeine. Stop sleeping on him. Productive. He was even productive when the Saints defense sucked. He was one of those guys always was getting fringe 10 sacks. Got a lot of national recognition last year because the Saints made the playoffs. And I think he's one of those guys chirps. Kind of good at chirper. Can get a couple good quotes out of him. And that's why I put him here at the Brian Dawkins number at number 20. We're just, like I said, we're just going to finish this out now, but just give me a second to drink some beer while you guys discuss in the chat as we get ready for the home stretch, as we go from 19 all the way up to number 1. C4, do you think the Eagles would have beat the Jags in the Super Bowl? Yes. No team was stopping the Eagles. It was destiny. I'll say right now, actually, the only team I think could stop the Eagles would have been the Saints. The Jags defense would have destroyed the Eagles offense. The Eagles defense would have destroyed the Jags offense. Cam Newton's not on this list. What was Cam Newton's stats last year? Do I think Cam's a top 10 quarterback? I don't think he's consistent enough. But yeah. On his day, on Cam Newton's day, he's a top 5 quarterback. Sometimes he's simply unstoppable, but he's so inconsistent. But I don't sleep on Cam, man. He was a Florida Gator once upon a time. Gator bias. Any Finns just joined. We had Cam Wake, we had Jarvis Landry, it counts, and we had Rashad Jones as an honorable mention. All right, we're going down the home stretch. I actually might stop at the top 10 and then play a little bit of Madden, and then we'll fit to the top 10. That's what we'll do. All right. Going to number 19, it's going to be Casey Hayward of the LA Chargers. Last year we had him at 44. This year he slept on. What did he get? He was in the last episode, I think, of the top 100, so he's in the 40s. What? He had 40 tackles, 4 picks, 22 pass breakups, a 96.4 Pro Football Focus grade, second team All-Pro. How do you rank him? They had fucking, you have, Richard Sherman and stuff put in the same category. Sherman had, 3 pass breakups last season. Casey Hayward is probably, I think you could probably say, make a case that Casey Hayward is the most underrated corner in football. Considering the amount of production that he has and, kind of comparing that to the amount of respect that he gets and the amount of hype that he gets. I mean, like I said, the more and more this list comes out, the more and more it looks like I'm hyping up the Chargers to have a big run next year because they're legit. The Chargers are absolutely legit. Their problem has just been injuries. They've had crucial injuries at unfortunate times. But, you know, for every bit that Joey Bosa and Melvin Ingram from the edge rush, those guys get a lot of hype. The secondary is just as good. You have Casey Hayward. You had Williams, I think was his name. He had some good plays last year. You had the dude from Iowa. I can't remember his name as well. And now you draft Derwin James to play back there. I mean, Casey Hayward makes everything work. They're going to be good next year. Go number 18. It's going to be Julio Jones. Last year we had him at number 7. The man that for some reason just does not get touchdowns has to come in here at number 18. Based upon his stats, a little bit of a down year. 88 catches, 1,400 yards. Those look fine. 3 touchdowns. Now, pound for pound, he's probably, you know, where you say Aaron Rodgers is like the best quarterback, mechanics, athletically, probably in the NFL, you probably have to give that to Julio Jones. From a height, weight, speed, from what he can bring from a skill set standpoint, he's probably the best wide receiver in football. But statistically, I can't put even a guy of Julio Jones' caliber with 3 touchdowns much higher than 18. And that's about as high I can go, and I fully respect him. I think he's utterly dominant. He's had some of the most insane plays I've ever seen watching football. But I don't know what it is, man. I try to get people to explain it to me. I know the Falcons just aren't efficient in the red zone, but, like, he should have made that play against the Eagles. You got, like, boxed out by fucking Jalen Mills. You should have been able to, like, make that play. And ultimately, you know, it might not have been the best throw from Matt Ryan, but the play was there for Julio Jones. It wasn't like it was super out of reach. He could have probably found a way to come down with that if, you know, it was his day, because, you know, the matchup was there. So he did have 18 catches, 195 yards, and a TD in the playoffs. Wasn't like he was on, you know, he was sleeping in the playoffs or anything like that. But Julio here at 18, and like I said, last year at 7, I think he is a top 10 talent in the National Football League. But, you know, 3 touchdowns, you gotta go to 18. Go number 17 is gonna be Calais Campbell of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Last year he came in at 59. This year we have him at 17. In my opinion, he was the Defensive Player of the Year. I don't think, you know, the guy that won the Defensive Player of the Year, Aaron Donald. I think Aaron Donald is clearly a better player, but I think statistically speaking, what he brought to the team made the playoffs. I think Calais Campbell probably should have got it, but either way, I think he was the runner-up. He finished with 67 tackles, 14.5 sacks, 1 touchdown, and was first-team All-Pro. Really kind of made the Jacksonville Jaguars defensive line what it was last season. You know, I think Calais Campbell was a massive reason why Yannick Ngakoue had the season he had, and pretty much everyone else that rotated in off the edge. You know, we know Malik Jackson coming from the Denver Broncos. He was always going to be a high-level player, but you saw Fowler get after it. You saw, I can't remember the name of the other edge rusher they have. But, you know, the linebackers also had a really productive season. And a lot of it comes through Calais Campbell. I think ultimately, you know, there's going to get a lot of credit that goes to Jalen Ramsey in that secondary. But I think in terms of, like, impact to that Jags team, no one was bigger than Calais Campbell last year. I mean, yeah, when you talk about guys like Leonard Fournette, like I said, Jalen Ramsey, A.J. Boye, that's pretty big praise. So Calais Campbell at 17. Go number 16, it's going to be Xavier Rhodes of the Minnesota Vikings. Last year we had him at 67. This year at 16. I just think he is, from a, you know, where Julio Jones, I think, from a height, weight, speed, athletic standpoint, and technical ability, is probably the best wide receiver in football. I think you need to give that debatable. I think Xavier Rhodes, and another corner we're going to talk about, is probably 1A, 1B in that category. He's the perfect build. He constantly shadows premier talent. That's why they have the Rhodes clothes memes or whatever. And he was like in the 40s in the NFL Top 100. That's the first, like, even though I was upset that Fletcher Cox was at 69, I think Xavier Rhodes was the first shocking one, how low he was. Last year he had 56 tackles, 2 picks, 10 pass breakups, first team All-Pro. I mean, you know, like I said, you know, he's really good. I think he probably is the second best corner in football, but I don't know, man. He's a big reason why the Minnesota Vikings defense, again, we have to ignore that Philadelphia Eagles game, which I will constantly bring up at every time I can. He pretty much shut down premier talent after premier talent after premier talent all season long. Go to number 15. It is going to be Chandler Jones of the Cardinals. Last year we had him at 76. This year we're going to 15. He was the sack king last year. 58 tackles, 17 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, first team All-Pro. Again, feel a little bit awkward putting a team that was as meh as the Cardinals having a player this high. But, you know, shout out to Chandler Jones, man. You produce. We're going to show you some respect. We're not going to ignore you just because you're on a bum-ass team. If you play good, especially, it's even harder to play good on a bad team. Now, the only thing I kind of wanted to look into it, but I didn't really have enough time to dive in, is how many of those sacks came in garbage time when, you know, the Cardinals were getting blown out And, you know, it's just like, oh, yeah, we're going to start working our backups in, and then the Cardinals just keep their starters in because you try to have some goddamn self-respect. I feel like maybe there's a little bit of that going on where he had 17 sacks, but 17 sacks still has 17 sacks, and when you lead the league in sacks, we're going to give you some respect. So it's number 15 here for Chandler Jones. I bet the Patriots are hating that they let him walk. All right, go to number 14. It is going to be big play Darius Slay for the Detroit Lions. Last year, didn't even make the list. This year, 14. I actually think he was an honorable mention last year. But this year, from a statistical standpoint, I don't think any corner had better numbers straight up. But, again, it kind of falls back to the team you play on that really separates the upper echelon corners. I think from a standpoint, I probably would still take Xavier Rhodes and Jalen Ramsey over Darius Slay. But the production, you can't ignore it. Last season, Darius Slay had 60 tackles, 8 interceptions, 16 pass breakups, and was first-team All-Pro. Gotta admire it, man. I guess you kind of could say he's a little bit underrated because he doesn't really find himself in that conversation of the upper echelon corners. But then again, if he doesn't find himself on the list, you probably have people that are still talking about, oh yeah, man, Richard Sherman's still really good. What about is Troy Polamalu still playing? He was really good. And what about William Gay? And like just obscure. Asante Samuel still a baller. So. I think Darius Slay is your modern corner, the guy that's, the new face on the block for these elite corners. Him and I think Casey Hayward are definitely guys that are new kids on the block in that discussion, but very much warranted. Going to number 13 is going to be Luke Kuechly of the Carolina Panthers. Last year we had him at 21. This year, not the best linebacker, but I think pound for pound he is the best in terms of consistency. He finished with 125 tackles, 3 interceptions, 1 touchdown, and was first-team All-Pro. He has been struggling with some concussion issues, which I think all football fans, because he's one of those guys, how can you hate him? He does everything the right way. He's good on the field, good off the field, and an exciting, one hell of a playmaker. You hope that those concussion issues can get resolved, or I don't know how, if you can fix it or not, but it is a little bit frustrating to constantly see a really, really good player constantly miss some time, miss some snaps, miss some quarters, because, he has to go and get checked out and go to the quiet room and make sure he can come out and play. But when he is on the field, man, I don't think that there's a better linebacker in football. But from a statistical standpoint, we had him put him at linebacker number 2 on our list. But I think overall, pound for pound, he is my number 1 guy. Moving to number 12. It is going to be Rob Gronkowski of the New England Patriots. Last year was injured and stuff like that, so he came in at 78. This year at number 12, you guys already know my feeling. I think Gronk is the most dominant player at his position in the NFL, and I don't even think it's really that close. He's unstoppable. He is unguardable. He's unmarkable. Last year, 69 catches. Hilarious. 1,100 yards receiving, 8 total touchdowns, was first-team All-Pro. He's uncoverable. He has had some injury problems. That's pretty much the only knock you can put up against Gronk. Other than that, you look at Travis Kelce, you look at Zach Ertz, 2 other premier tight ends. They are nowhere near in the same territory as a run blocker as Gronk. And you might even have to give Gronk the edge in pure receiving. Like I said, you might want to give maybe Kelce better hands. You might want to give Zach Ertz better route running. But Gronk is number 2 in like all those categories. He is the most complete tight end I think I've ever seen. And I've seen a bunch of good tight ends in my time. Tony Gonzalez is an absolute beast. I saw Antonio Gates in his prime. And I think Gronk's probably the best. I think Gronk will go down as the most talented tight end that the NFL has ever seen. Hot take. Is that a hot take? I don't think so. And then, finishing up before we get in the top 10, at number 11 is my number 1 linebacker, and that is Bobby Wagner of the Seattle Seahawks. Last year we had him at 16. This year at number 11, he had 133 tackles, 2 interceptions, 1 touchdown, I believe, was first-team All-Pro. He just slightly nods out Luke Kuechly, and this is, these are 2 absolute premier linebackers in the NFL. I mean, you can do it all. I think where you got Luke Kuechly was, where he's more so he's trying to stay on the field. Bobby Wagner is right there in terms of a complete guy that can play the run. Probably a little bit bigger of a hitter than Luke Kuechly. I don't think he's as good in coverage, but they're probably 1A, 1B when you talk about coverage linebackers. He can do it all. I remember there's highlights of Bobby Wagner like covering wide receivers 50 yards downfield. He's making a play in coverage. So, I mean, so many people you're kind of talking about the Legion of Booms pretty much done. They're never going to be the same. They still got Bobby Wagner. You still got Earl Thomas. Maybe they get Cam Chancellor back. They could be fine. You got the new, the new freak mod. You got the Shaquem Griffin and Shaq Griffin. They could be good, but ultimately, even with Earl Thomas, I do think that they've transitioned from the face of the defense being Richard Sherman. I think Bobby Wagner's going to take on that role and be the next big-time guy for the Seattle Seahawks. All right, we're going to pop back into one more quick sim of Madden so I can chug my beer because it's getting kind of warm here. And then we'll jump right into the final top 10, and you guys can be on your merry way. So who do you guys think is going to be in the top 10? Patrick Peterson's not on the list because his stats weren't that great. He had a couple bad games, and you can't make it strictly on reputation alone. Like, if you look at all the corners here, statistically speaking, Pat Pete is, you know, fringe top 100. Maybe I could have made him honorable mention, but look at Pat Pete's stats last year. Let's look right now. Patrick Peterson's stats last season. He finished the year with 1 pick, 8 pass breakups, 35 tackles. Yeah, he's a really talented corner. You can't throw everything in his stats, but that is a down year by Pat Pete's standpoint, and we put a lot of emphasis on what you did last season and not so much based on your reputation. How are you going to put him ahead of, like, Darius Slay? 8 picks, 26 pass breakups. You know what I'm saying? And, you know, the whole, yeah, like what you said, the whole, oh, we don't throw him how many times he was targeted. You know, the last time a player like that said, maybe I'm a little bit burned, Nnamdi Asomugha never got targeted, and he got absolutely exposed outside of his system. I'm not saying Pat Pete's a bad player. I'm just saying, I don't know if I could say, based off of last season, he is a undisputed top 100 player in the NFL. Come on, not the ball. Oh, Saquon. Oh, come on. Get in the fucking end zone. I don't know, man. We'll have to agree, disagree on Pat Pete. I get they don't throw it to him, so his stats aren't going to be great, but I don't know, man. Like, I don't even think his Pro Football Focus grade was anything big. And they measure everything, right? Like, Marshall Lattimore had great stats, and no one was throwing to him. They said, like, if you throw it to Marshall Lattimore's way, it's better just throwing it into the ground. Like, I don't think Pat Pete made the top 100 for Pro Football Focus. So if you're not getting graded out statistically, and then you're not getting graded out by Pro Football Focus, probably can't put you in the top 100. But I'm not saying he's a bad player. I'll tell you that right now. We can agree to disagree. I think Pat Pete's a really good player. I think he's probably one of the best build of a corner. But, I don't know. I just think last year, I was doing my research. Nothing screamed top 100. He created a private fantasy league. I believe, not confirmed, that me and Not the Expert are going to collab and host a fantasy football league for the upcoming year. Oh, fucking Cardinal fan. Look where I put, goddamn, what he got. I put Chandler Jones super hot. Get over it. Ever thought of having an online league? Yeah, the online league is probably the most commonly asked question. I just don't have I have no extra time to run it. Oh, right there. Oh, Marshall Lattimore, no thanks. Stafford made 51 because I value the fourth quarter comebacks. I value one player that can influence the game so much that he can win games. He can snatch victory from the jaws of defeat just like that. I think in terms of talent, is Matt Stafford at 51? Probably not. But in terms of value, probably going to have him there, man. There's not too many players that, you know, can single-handedly carry their team when they're losing and propel them to victory. Are the Panthers a top 5 defense in the league? Not with that secondary. Oh, alrighty then. We can get Aguilar involved here in the fourth quarter. You're bodying the Saints. Oh, right there. Let's go Zach Ertz. Oh, classic Drew Brees. Go for it on fourth down every play and fucking get it. Ravens defense top 5. I'd say top 10. Come on. Throw it away. Oh, fuck off. We're going to go for it. Or maybe not. All right, we won, though. Don't matter. I don't think we've lost the game yet. Where will Dez Bryant land? Maybe San Francisco. Maybe. Alright, I'm going to fucking log this shit off, and we're going to do the top 10, and I'm going to get out of here. The Caps just scored. Nice. I didn't put any money on them tonight, but nice. Alright, we're going from 10 to 1. Just keep Madden up in the background so you guys don't see my Bang Bros login key. Alright. Going to from number 11 to number 10. Boom! Carson Wentz. He was your MVP last season before I got hurt. Tom Brady won the MVP because he was the last guy standing. Wentz is incredible. Wentz is simply incredible. Last season, 11-2 as a starter. 3,300 passing yards, 33 touchdowns, 7 picks, all pro. Led his team to the Super Bowl because he got hurt. If it wasn't for him, wouldn't have been in that position. Oh, took a team like the Eagles that's been around for a while. Oh, and he broke the all-time single-season passing touchdown mark on a torn ACL. He is the future of the league. And it fills my heart with joy to be able to tell you guys that. Be able to stand at the top of the mountaintops and tell you that Carson Wentz is the future of the league. May sound a little ignorant. May sound like, oh, he's such a homer. Wentz is that damn good. Did you watch? He had not only was he your MVP, which is why he's here at 10. If he would have finished the season, he could have even just been average to finish the season. He would have won MVP. His highlight reel is better than any quarterback last year. Any quarterback, even Deshaun Watson, who has to Carson Wentz not only was the most productive quarterback during his time, finished with the best record, I guess you could say, the least amount of losses. Tom Brady had one more loss, I guess if you're considering, he played more games, whatever. But he made the most wow plays too, and that's like truly the big thing about the most valuable player. Sure, you have the standpoint that, oh my God, the Eagles scheme, you saw what Nick Foles did. Nick Foles is also a beast, okay? Carson Wentz did incredible things that no other quarterback in the National Football League can do. I think push comes to shove. He is, even though he's 10 based off of last season's performance, I think you had to consider Carson Wentz in the discussion for top 5 quarterback. As a biased Eagle fan, I probably put him in that 4-5 range. I think if you're just some random Joe Schmo that doesn't like the Eagles and doesn't really have a quarterback in that top 5 discussion, Wentz should definitely be right there. I think it'd be, I can't think of any scenario where you have Carson Wentz any lower than 6 when you talk about the top quarterbacks, regardless of what they did last year in the National Football League. Because obviously, you probably have Aaron Rodgers, who was at 26 on our list, a little bit higher, but Wentz at 10, probably where he's going to be from the official top 100, I would say as well. I'm so glad he's my quarterback. Moving on. At number 9, we're going with Harrison Smith, the safety from the Minnesota Vikings last year. Did not make the list, but he was outstanding. He was the face of the Vikings in terms of production last season. 78 tackles, 5 picks, 12 breakups. First team All-Pro. He had a sack in the playoffs. Now, he didn't have the best playoffs, which kind of could hurt him a little bit, but he had, I believe, for the regular season, I don't remember the grade, but I think it was a 97 or 96, the highest grade Pro Football Focus has ever given out for a player. I was like, okay, well, it's a safety. I kind of lean on them. I lean on Pro Football Focus for stuff that's really tough to pass the eye test. Where we're just some guy with an opinion that doesn't have the all-22 tape, and can't watch every single time Harrison Smith drop back to the coverage. You kind of take where people are like, that's their job. They get paid. You kind of take their word for it. And the fact that they said there's been no other player, regardless of position, that had the kind of season Harrison Smith had, plus what you could see, the eye test of Harrison Smith and what he meant to the Minnesota Vikings defense and what he meant to the Vikings run last season, I have no problem at all putting him here at number 9 and the best safety in the NFL. Going to number 8 is going to be Le'Veon Bell of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Last year we had him at number 4. Falls 4 spots just because, you know, in reality the touchdowns weren't exactly, I think, up to par where they should be. He finished the year with 1,946 yards from scrimmage, 11 total touchdowns, was first team All-Pro. In the playoffs, he had 155 yards from scrimmage and 2 total touchdowns. Touchdowns are just down a little bit. I think with Le'Veon Bell, anything less than 15 for a running back of his caliber is a little bit disappointing. But all in all, when you talk about the elite running backs, he's always going to be right there in the discussion with the David Johnsons, with the Todd Gurleys of the National Football League, and rightfully so. He can do it all. He's really the complete running back. He can catch. He's pretty much like a, you know, he's a guy that you could probably feel comfortable if you had to play him straight up as wide receiver. He could do it and be pretty damn effective. So, you know, a complete package at the running back spot. And I think number 8, based upon what he did last season, is a really good spot for Le'Veon Bell. Going to number 7 is going to be DeAndre Hopkins, the wide receiver from the Houston Texans. Did not make the list last season, but this year, man, he was incredible based upon, he had a rookie quarterback. Work with Deshaun Watson, a polarizing pick in Deshaun Watson. Is Deshaun Watson going to be able to make that change from Clemson, from the college football, the gimmicky offense to the NFL? He doesn't have the arm strength. He doesn't have this. He doesn't have that. DeAndre Hopkins said, all right, whatever. We're going to make it work. What did he do? He went out 96 catches, 1,400 yards, 13 touchdowns, first team All-Pro. I legitimately think if I'm ranking the wide receivers just in total, we said Julio Jones is probably the complete package from an athlete. I think Hopkins has surpassed Julio, to be completely honest. Everyone knows the number 1 wide receiver is pretty much unanimous. I personally think that's maybe a little bit of a hot take. I might consistently put DeAndre Hopkins at 2 and Julio Jones at 3 from now on. Because Hopkins doesn't have the athletic traits that Julio Jones does, but gets about the same amount of targets and has better production and has inferior, you would assume, quarterback play because Matt Ryan, an MVP. So, I mean, maybe that's just how I feel going into this season about the Hopkins-Julio debate for who's the legitimate second best wide receiver in football. But I'm going to say right now, as of tonight, you know, drinking this Miller MGD, I'm going Hopkins over Julio for my second best wideout in the National Football League. All right, moving on to number 6 is going to be Jalen Ramsey of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Did not make the list last year, but now I think he's emerged as the top corner in football. From production, he's right there with pretty much every other corner. From a talented standpoint, from what he can bring, I think there's no one like him. He's pretty much he's a complete defensive back. I think you could move Jalen Ramsey to the safety spot. You would not see a drop-off in production. Versus guys like we had Darius Slay really high, Xavier Rhodes. All those guys might not be able to play everything in the secondary that they're asked to do. There might just be outright corners. I think a guy like Jalen Ramsey's versatility gets him right up there to the number 1 spot, which is why he falls in at number 6. He had 63 tackles, 4 picks, 17 pass breakups, first team All-Pro. He had an interception in the playoffs. And that's like one of those things where, like, yeah, his stats might not be as good as Darius Slay, but look at everyone else around him. The safeties had a bunch of turnovers. A.J. Boye had a bunch of turnovers. And I kind of lead into the side that Jalen Ramsey is a big reason why those guys had the success they did, not the inverse. Not Jalen Ramsey had the success he did because of the tandem and the playmakers that he had in that secondary with Jacksonville. I think Jalen Ramsey was the oil that made that machine work. And I think that he is the best corner in football right now. And not only that, he has age on his side. He's not even in his prime yet. He's just scratching the surface of how good he's going to be. I think maybe next year could be finished top 5. Go to number 5. We're in the top 5. Number 5 is going to be Antonio Brown, finishing where he was last year at number 5. I think AB is the best wide receiver undisputed in the National Football League. Last year, when Carson Wentz went down, he was pretty much one of those late emergers to try and win the MVP award because Brady was looking like he's getting it by default. Last year, Antonio Brown had 101 catches, 1,500 yards, 9 touchdowns, was first team All-Pro. In the playoffs, he had 7 catches for 132 yards, 2 TDs as well. I mean, the fact that, from an athletic standpoint, he has his shortcomings in comparison to hell. Even DeAndre Hopkins is a better athlete, bigger, stronger. You got the Julio Jones comp, but he has the best hands, the best route running, the best footwork, maybe the best acceleration to get out of his cuts. He's a once-in-a-lifetime receiver. I think right now is a great time. Everyone knows it is a passing league, but when I think when, you know, all you youngins, and, you know, even myself, I'm not super old, but I think when we look back 20 years down the road, once, you know, this generation has moved on, that we really are watching one of the great core group of wide receivers in the history of the National Football League. And Antonio Brown and Julio Jones, and now you get guys like DeAndre Hopkins, some other dudes making a mix. But I think AB is going to go down as one of the GOATs of all time, and it is absolute pleasure to be able to watch him play on Sunday. So that is why he's kicking off the top 5 at number 5. And I feel like number 5 is justified because that last year wasn't even his best season. He's had more touchdowns. He's had more catches. He's had more receiving yards. So, I mean, we're going to talk about that in just a second when we see how the top 5 plays out. If you don't even have, like, I kind of bet you against yourself. Like, if how you finished this year doesn't stand out in comparison to some of the other seasons you have, it's going to kind of negatively affect your grade. So, that being said, moving on to number 4, it is going to be Aaron Donald of the LA Rams at number 4. Last year we had him at number 10. At number 4 here, he's your defensive player of the year. Even though I think I personally would have given it to Calais Campbell, Aaron Donald is this more superior, talented player. You know, I think, you know, with the hype that we just gave Jalen Ramsey, I think Aaron Donald is the best defensive player regardless of position. Last season, he had 41 tackles, 11 sacks, 5 forced fumbles. As I stated, was defensive player of the year and first-team All-Pro. Didn't do anything in the playoff game. Did he even play? I don't know, because didn't have no stats. But now you have to be, you know, completely unlocked. There's a chance he could be very much higher this year. The fact that he's a Dominican Sue. You already had Michael Brockers. Sure, their linebackers suck ass. But, you know, now they have improved players in the secondary to keep to lead Marcus Peters to pair with John Johnson and LaMarcus Joyner. So that means quarterbacks are going to be holding the ball longer, which is going to give a lot more opportunities for Aaron Donald to get after the quarterback and bump those sack numbers up and those forced fumbles up from 11 and 5 respectively. But I think 4 is a good spot here from Aaron Donald because, like I said, he made the playoffs. And for a player that, you know, you saw Jalen Ramsey got a crucial interception in the playoffs. You know, he made a big play. Aaron Donald did nothing, and his team was one and done. That's kind of why I didn't have Aaron Donald higher. When I asked you guys to predict my top 5, you had Aaron Donald. Most of you guys had him in your top 3. Some of you actually had him as number 1. And I was like, okay, I don't know if I'd go that far. But considering he did nothing in the playoffs, didn't help his team win, didn't have, like, you know, if it was one of those things where the truly upper echelon players, Aaron Donald would have had, like, a costly forced fumble or something like that that could propel the Rams to 1 victory. He single-handedly got the Rams 1 victory, or clutched out a victory. I could be inclined to put him into that top 3, but because he slept on in the playoffs and didn't do much, 4 is about as high as we can put Mr. Aaron Donald. Moving on to number 3, I'm going to say, with all my Carson Wentz bias aside, I think by the true definition of MVP, which doesn't make you the MVP. Remember a couple years ago, J.J. Watt, in my opinion, was the best player, the most valuable player, and they gave it to Aaron Rodgers because he's a quarterback. I think Carson Wentz, based off everything, the record and all that stuff, which does go into voting for MVP, he was it. But I think the true most valuable player to their team at number 3 was Russell Wilson for the Seattle Seahawks. Last year, we put him at number 60. This year, a gigantic leap up to number 3. Last season, he was 9-7 as a starter, 4,000 passing yards, 34 touchdowns to 11 picks, almost 600 rushing yards, and 3 rushing touchdowns. Made the Pro Bowl. He had the most rushing yards on his team. He was the Seahawks. He was 9-7. Every bit of that 9-7 was Russell Wilson. The Legion Boom was hurt. They were banged up. The defense did not play particularly well. If your name was not Bobby Wagner or Earl Thomas, apparently, even though I think that was a pretty much undeserved All-Pro nod, second-team All-Pro nod. That was Russell Wilson. No one player. Like, the whole the hypothetical scenario, right, is if one guy went down, how would the team respond? And we saw what happened with Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz went down. The team was able to respond and rally with Nick Foles. You know, if Tom Brady went down, we've seen Tom Brady go down in years past, and the Patriots have been able to find success, be it, you know, Jacoby Brissett, Jimmy Garoppolo, Matt Castle. They can be fine. They can weather the storm. If Russell Wilson went down for the Seattle Seahawks, they are not anywhere near a 9-7 team. So I think there was a way. When I was making this list, I would say right now, if Russell Wilson made the playoffs, he was number 1. He was going to be number 1 on this list. The fact that he didn't make the playoffs, I mean, you know, the heroics, the theatrics, everything, you can't value it much more than top 3. But yeah, man, I think Russell Wilson, by that standpoint, it was the most valuable single player to his team, and we have him here at number 3. So now we're going into this. We got who's going to be number 1. I'm seeing some players. I'm seeing some guesses. I see Jason Campbell. Who leaked to this guy? Who leaked it? Patrick Peterson. People are wondering. Jake Elliott. Go right now before we go. Who do you have as your 1-2? Guess it. Did I completely omit somebody? Did I completely miss a player? Did I undervalue someone? Did I let my bias jump right in and just shit on someone? Blake Bortles. All right, here we go. At number 2, Tom Brady of the New England Patriots. Last year, he was my number 1. I don't have any problem putting Tom Brady at number 1 when he is the clear winner. Reason why Tom Brady does not come number 1. Let's jump through the stats. 13-3 as a starter, 4,500 passing yards, 32 touchdowns, 8 picks. He was the MVP, first team All-Pro. What he did in the playoffs, I'm going to be completely honest, based off of that stat line, Brady's maybe in my top 5. Reason why he goes from 5-4 to 3 to number 2 is how he played in the playoffs. 1,100 yards, 8 touchdowns, no picks. Didn't win the Super Bowl, which kind of affects it a little bit, but that stat line is fucking incredible. That you can't ask more out of your quarterback. The only reason why he's at number 2 and not number 1 is because that is an average Tom Brady season. He won the MVP award by default. When you look at what Tom Brady has been able to do throughout his career, this is like what? His 5th best season? 4th best season? I don't know if you want to call it like the LeBron. We're LeBroning him because he's so good every year. We kind of have him compete against stuff. But that's how you have to do it. You have to, when you look at a guy like Tom Brady, this isn't his best season, kind of like Antonio Brown. What is the rant and raving about? He had 4,500 yards. So 1, 2, 3, 4. There's been 4 other seasons he has had more passing yards than what he has. There's been 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 other seasons that he had a better win-loss. There has been 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 other seasons that he had more touchdown passes. And there has been countless seasons where he had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 seasons that he had less interceptions, less turnovers. And there's been other seasons where he's actually won the Super Bowl. So yes, we are kind of comparing Tom Brady against himself. Is that particularly fair? Maybe not, but it's my list. And when Tom Brady deserves number 1, we gave it to him last year. This year, it's the hype that he won the MVP award. He won the MVP award by default. He won the MVP award because Carson Wentz got hurt and Russell Wilson did not make the playoffs. And they're not going to give it to a running back. That's the reason why Tom Brady won the MVP. His playoff run was incredible. His playoff run was sensational. They should have absolutely won the Super Bowl with that kind of stat line. 8 touchdowns to no interceptions. He went up against the Jags defense that was, goddamn terrifying. But not good enough. So at number 1, I really wish I memed this and put Nick Foles or something like that and made all you guys that were waiting for like 2.5 hours. But we're going Todd Gurley from the LA Rams. Todd Gurley was unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable last year. 2,100 yards from scrimmage, 19 touchdowns, first team All-Pro, Offensive Player of the Year, had 100+ yards from scrimmage in the one-done playoff game. So again, comes down to your different valuations. Ultimately, when I look at the best player last year, I can't give it to Tom Brady because let's just break it this way. That stat line for Tom Brady, it's because he's Tom Brady. Tom Brady's not number 1 because he's Tom Brady. That was his 5th best season. If you're ranking all of Tom Brady's seasons, last year was his 5th best in his career. However, Todd Gurley was the clear-cut best player in his position. Should have probably won MVP in my opinion, but they only give the MVP to the quarterback unless you're absolutely absurd. Those stat lines, if you look at running backs of years past, is good enough to win the MVP award. We've seen running backs, Emmitt Smith won a year that was way worse than that. I think Eric Dixon or something like that had a year that was worse than that. He was in the right mind frame, the right mold, the right stat category to win MVP. Fortunately, he didn't play the final game of the season. If he did play that final game of the season, could have finished with 2,200 yards from scrimmage, 20 touchdowns, something like that. Might have made it look a little bit more rounder numbers. But, and then you throw in like the debate, if one player was gone from their team, can a running back make that much difference? If you say Tom Brady, what would be the difference where the Patriots ended up with Tom Brady if he was gone? Well, the same thing can be said with Todd Gurley. Todd Gurley was that offense. If Todd Gurley wasn't there, you wouldn't have seen the resurrection of Jared Goff. You wouldn't have seen the success of the Rams. I think the most important player to their team that made the playoffs was Todd Gurley last season. Now, ultimately, I'm calling myself out. I'm saying we are comparing and competing Tom Brady against himself for not to get this #1 spot, to not repeat as our #1 player. But I just can't give it to Tom Brady because he won the MVP by default, and it was just outside of his top 5 seasons in his career. You go to a guy like Todd Gurley that is a new superstar, that is the best pure season for his skill position. It's easy for me. Todd Gurley was always #1, and I didn't really have any debate in all reality. When I was making this list, I knew right away Todd Gurley was going to be #1, and there you go. That is how we are going to finish it. I hope you guys did enjoy my NFL Top 100. For the most part, I guess minus what we saw with Patrick Peterson. Everyone else has been, pretty much understanding and feeling of it. So I hope you guys did enjoy it. As always, if it's your first time stopping by, don't be afraid to hit that subscribe button. I hope you guys did enjoy it. We'll do it again next year. We'll do it every year because the NFL's top list is fucking terrible and it sucks every single season. I'm sure yourself, and especially if you follow me on Twitter, which is @PapaXC4, you'll see me just trolling on the Twitter when they make stupid picks. So I hope you guys can stop in for that. But that does it for me, guys. Thank you for watching. And until next time, it's C4 saying peace out.